Hey folks, so ever since I first started making leveling guides on YouTube, one of the most common questions I've been asked is how to get your old characters from previous expansions caught up to the current one. Although my leveling guides do explain all of the fastest routes that you can take for both Alliance and Horde, they're primarily written with new characters in mind. Because of this, I can kind of understand why this question keeps appearing, since most people are unsure if they should follow my guide from the very start, or if they should hop in somewhere towards the middle. The answer that I've been responding with for the past few years has always been it depends, but understandably, that doesn't really cut it for most people. In this video, I plan to test out a few different leveling zones on some of my old Legion characters, but before I do that, I want to quickly give a general rule of thumb for anybody that doesn't have the time to watch this entire video. Now, if you've been following along with my leveling guides, it's usually better to start off at the very beginning of the route. For Horde characters, this means you should probably be leveling in Silverpine Forest, and for Alliance characters, you should be leveling in Duskwood or Loch Modan. If your character is already level 40 or higher, I recommend doing the WoD intro and Gorgrond instead. Once you finish those two zones, you should go back to the start of the route and continue until you hit level 50. Now, as I said, this is a very generalized explanation that should work for everybody, but I wanted to spend some time in this video actually going through these zones on higher level characters, and then timing myself to compare how long it takes me to level through each one of them. I also haven't done a speedrun or leveling run in quite a long time, about 6 months, if I'm correct, and let's be honest, I have way too many alts as is, so I figured this would be a great way to kill 3 birds with one stone, because I can level up some of my old characters, do some testing to refine my leveling routes, and record a leveling run where I can tell some interesting stories about my experiences over the past few months. And boy do I have some stories to tell, because I've had 2 guilds collapse in the time since my last run. It's been a wild few months, but enough preamble. I have my old Bear Druid here, as you can see, and this is what I mained back in Legion, I think for Emerald Nightmare and Nighthold, so I'm going to use it to test out leveling in Warlords of Draenor. Now, gone through all that, I had to actually record that a few times. Only 2 minutes. I'm actually impressed by that. Now, all of that was actually, I wouldn't say pre-recorded, but like scripted. And then I wrote a script ahead of time, and I made sure that I read through it. But this is just, me going off the cuff. But I wanted to make sure that this time, I actually planned ahead and, okay, I think, am I in WoD already? Just to be safe, let's pick Iron Horde. And then it's this thing, yeah, Azeroth's The Last Stand. Okay, so I have the quest. But yeah, so I've done a lot of introductions before in my speedruns that just take way too long. I guess I can start the timer now, since I'm heading there. But you can see here, I'm level 46, and I'm like towards the end of level 46. This is where most of my characters are going to be. It's not consistent entirely because, it's kind of hard to find a lot of old characters at the exact correct level. Is it possible to actually get to the correct area? I have no idea how I'm supposed to get to the Dark Portal now, because it doesn't actually give me a way to get there. One thing I've noticed that's kind of weird is the ways to get to the correct location are actually different depending on what level you are. So normally, if you pick this on a low-level character, it'll just tell you to talk to X NPC, and they'll take you there, and you're immediately sent into the introduction. But I think because this is an old character, it's actually slightly different for me. I actually have to go all the way down to the Dark Portal, which I'm guessing I would have to take the Zeppelin from Gromgol, which is kind of... oof. It's like, this is a massive time loss, but I guess this is something that I wasn't entirely sure if this would be the case. I kind of wanted to test it live, because I figured if I test it live and it works not the way I thought it would, it gives a good insight into, maybe this isn't faster. Maybe you would want to just do Silverpine and Hillsbrad, because, look, right now, I could just head right over to Silverpine Forest, and I'll do that on a different character. But on this character, I specifically want to do the WoD stuff, because on my other Horde character that's also level 46, I've actually already completed the WoD intro. And one thing I realized is that if you've done stuff before on one of your characters, like even not in Chromie time, right? You technically can't repeat it. You can if you use, what's it called? Level sync So, or party sync, right? So if you make like a second free trial account and then party sync yourself down, you can repeat, WAD intro, all this stuff. So little trick there. It's not something I really like to discuss on my leveling guides because it is technically like an exploit, but it's not like an exploit in the sense that you'll get banned for it. It's just one of those things that's like probably not intended, and I think if it actually caught on and more people were doing it, Blizzard would probably crack down and be like, no, 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 we don't want people repeating the same quests over and over. It's also very buggy, so WAD intro, you shouldn't have any issues, but a lot of the time when I try to do party sync, specifically in Silverpine Forest, and I think Hillsbrad Foothills has this issue as well, certain NPCs won't spawn in party sync mode, so you just get stuck like halfway through the zone, and that actually makes a lot of zones really inefficient because it'll basically lock you before you get to the really good like quest density areas, and that just means it's not worth doing. So the reason, I guess, as a side tangent, that I never cover party sync is primarily because of that. It's partially the exploit stuff, but also there's so many unknowns. I would have to test every single zone to see which ones are bugged, which ones aren't bugged, and that would completely change which ones are efficient. So generally speaking, I just decide I'm not going to mention it. I won't talk about it in my routes, but inevitably, because I do avoid talking about it, somebody messages me and they're like, oh, did you know that if you turn on party sync, you can do XYZ? And it's like, yeah, I know about it. I just, don't like it. But I guess I'll mention it in case somebody wants to try it. If you feel like farming the WAD intro 20 times, that is an option available to you. Though I would argue it's maybe not as efficient as you might think, and probably not super fun. And how did I get onto this side tangent anyway, as I slowly fly all the way to my required location? I think because I need to loot... What is this? Yeah, I need to loot an Iron Horde missive. So this is also kind of new, because normally I just talk to Khadgar and you get on your way, but I have to actually do something, which is weird, because it's not supposed to happen. Huh? Collect the Iron Horde missive from one of the Iron Horde at the base of the Dark Portal. So is it the base of the Dark... Because... No, that can't be correct. Alright, we're in uncharted territory here. I also... Like, these are all my keybinds from Legion. I've significantly changed my bear keybind since then, but this is a very old character. So I have actually touched up some of the other ones a little bit, just so I'm prepared. But this one I just have left completely untouched. Partially because I have a bit of nostalgia for this particular character, because unlike the other two that we'll be looking at today, I actually did play this character quite a bit. There are still people who I know, who I'm like friends with, who refer to me as... yeah, I need to fix these keybinds. This should be Control 1, Control 2, and then sure. So I'm not going to mess around. I'm just going to use stuff like that I'm comfortable with. So I normally hit Control 3 for travel form. That's what I'm going with. But yes, no, this character I have nostalgia for. I still have all my fancy stuff. So I didn't even bother getting heirlooms, although technically speaking, even for your old characters, which I'll be showing, you want to get heirlooms. So I have like Bloodthirsty Instinct, Hunger of the Pack, still my artifact weapons, my legendaries. Yeah, where am I supposed to get... Am I supposed to loot this thing off one of these guys? I feel like this has to be broken, right? I might actually not be able to do... Maybe? Unless... Is it one of the elite mobs that I'm supposed to talk to? Alright. Well, this... Yeah. I intended to just kind of say, alright, and now that we've gotten that preamble out of the way, that was on my script, right? And then I was just going to be like, let's get into it. And then, after a bit of talking, I get here. And this is going way worse than I thought it would. Because apparently you can't just hop into WAD like you can on new characters. Which, I knew there was going to be some hiccups. Like, I knew the teleport system wasn't working correctly. But I didn't fully realize that the actual quest system was completely different. So, can I get the missive off this guy? No? How do I get this thing? What the hell? I think this might just be a bugged quest. Because I'm pretty sure that's like the pre-patch quest from WoD. Back when this entire area was controlled by orcs. So why is it giving me this quest? It might be something where, like, because I technically had this character during WoD, so I boosted it when I got the Legion, pre-order thing. So this was actually my, what was it at the time? I guess level 100 boost character. Right. Yeah, so when I pre-ordered Legion, I boosted this bear, and then I did some WoD stuff with it, but I'm pretty sure I used, like, the Gorgon skip, so I never actually did the Legion intro, or the WoD intro. Please? No, it's... Yeah, this is just broken. What the fuck? Yeah, this is not working. Okay. Can I just enter the dark portal? What happens if I do this? Oh, wait, it just takes me there? Oh. Okay. I see now. So it gave me the first quest inside the dark portal. So instead of, normally if you enter the dark portal, I know a lot of people are going to be like, wow, this guy's so stupid. He just spent like 5 minutes doing like stuff that should be so obvious, right? To understand, normally if you enter the dark portal, it does not just take you here. It actually takes you to Ashran, I believe. Or Ashran or Frostfire Ridge, one of the two, I forget. You're not supposed to be able to just enter this normally. Because that used to be literally one of the ways in which you skipped this entire intro thing, back when it wasn't efficient. You would just, before talking to Khadgar, walk into the portal, and it wouldn't know where to put you, so we would just skip the entire intro. So that's the reason why I thought I couldn't do this. And if you watch my speedruns, I don't get this quest. I get a quest to talk to Khadgar, and then after I talk to Khadgar, it sends me into the portal. So I'm very confused. Oh no. Well, you know, had to do it for science, right? I guess that's one of the nice things about doing this. I would imagine that, you know, I'm not... If that can confuse me, hopefully, you know, there's another, you know, new player out there, or returning player, I guess. This is more a video aimed at returning players anyway. So maybe there is another returning player out there who ran into the same issue and ran around the Blasted Lands super confused for, like, God knows how long, and they're watching this and they're like, oh, you know, thank God it's not just me. Or maybe I really am just the only stupid one here, and it took me way too long to figure that out. I don't know. I'm gonna feel better if there's somebody else out there who is also confused. But yeah, that is not how it normally is for speedrunning, so either way, that's good to know. Also, Leatrix Plus isn't working. Automate Quests is on. No, it should be working. I guess it's not auto-choosing rewards. I know there's a setting for that. I just forget how to do it at this immediate moment. Okay. I will say, at this point, my timer is very inaccurate, just because you can... I guess if you really care, the timer is more here just for, you know, people who actually want to look at the exact time. I'm not too interested in timing this. Like I said, this is more just a way for me to, you know, get stuff done while doing, like, a leveling run that doesn't require me to make a brand new character, which I really do have too many characters already. You know, I've leveled so many, and that's the thing. People always ask me, oh, why don't you do another leveling run? And I could, but the reality is, I've always said this, I'm never going to just make videos for the sake of making videos. Like, a lot of people, I see this a lot, even with, you know, creators that I enjoy. They'll basically become stuck in this loop of feeling like they need to make the same videos that performed really well. And if they don't keep making those like really, high performing videos that got them a lot of views initially on YouTube, that, their channel's going to die out. And admittedly, I mean, I have in many ways an incentive to, do these videos because hopefully this is going to do, I wouldn't say amazing, but like reasonably well. I get, I would call it a respectable amount of views on every leveling run I do. It's not amazing at this point. It's definitely not like the top type of video I make on my channel. Some of my other ones have been doing better. But usually, there's a decent amount of people who enjoy watching these, and I can make it. It doesn't require a lot of effort on my part. It's fun to make. I like talking. I like telling stories and stuff like that. It's one of the few video formats left at this point where I can actually do that. But the reality is, I just don't always feel like doing leveling runs. I have a million alts at this point. I've tested every single zone a million times. So it's something that, yeah, a lot of people ask for. But I'm not going to sit here and just keep doing endless leveling runs just because, people enjoy it. I've been trying to kind of diversify a little bit and expand, like lately. If you've been paying attention, I've been doing a lot of guides. Well, I've always been doing guides, I suppose. Oh, crap. Forgot to speak with Ariok. I've always done guides. I've done, like, leveling guides and stuff. But recently, I guess the main thing is I've been doing more dungeons and raid guides. So I did dungeon guides for Shadowlands Season 4, and those have performed reasonably well. Some of the later ones didn't, which is something I kind of realized. If I'm gonna make a dungeon guide, it needs to be out by the time the content actually lands. And this applies even for the ones, these days, right? Because the guides that I published earlier are still getting more views to this day, just because they were already out there by the time the dungeon went live. They were the ones that got, views, and as a result, now that the video already has more views, it's more well established, YouTube recommends it more, etc. That's just how it works. So, generally speaking, it's been going well, and I actually really enjoy making dungeon guides. It's kind of something where, I guess I've always wanted to make dungeon guides. Like, I've always thought, like, way back when, before I ever even had a YouTube channel, I told myself, if I'm ever going to make videos, it would be, like, very detailed, long guides about, topics I'm interested in, specifically, like, dungeons and raids, because I've always pretty much only ever cared about dungeons and raiding in World of Warcraft. Even, the leveling stuff, right, has always been just a side hobby for me. And that's something I've tried to express to people a few times, because, well, I do find it interesting. It's obviously the thing that I kind of built my YouTube channel upon. That has literally always been a secondary focus for me. It was never something that I really enjoyed doing. It was like, I had already finished the tier back when I first started, which was End of Nyalotha. Already killed N'Zoth. I'd, done a few farm runs, gotten bored, my guild fell apart. And I was just like, alright, I have absolutely nothing else to do. I'm bored. I'm going to just see if I can level some characters. And then for fun, I started recording my leveling times, seeing if I could get speedruns done, and it all kind of spiraled from there. Next thing I knew, I made a guide, my guide became popular, etc. I've told the story many times before. But the point is, I had no idea that that particular video was going to do well. It just happened to be a thing I was interested in at the time, and so I made a guide on it. But realistically speaking, I had initially planned at some point to make a YouTube channel, and just for fun, to start making guides for, like, dungeons and raids, which, realistically speaking, probably never would have performed well if I hadn't, actually had my channel take off from leveling guides, because that's the thing about dungeon and raid guides, right? And the reason why it's kind of hard to do. Not only does it take an insane amount of effort to really make a good raid boss guide or a good dungeon guide, because you need a ton of testing to actually, do a thorough job with it, but then you need to really do a great job, like, actually writing a script, figuring out exactly what every boss ability does. Like, it's actually kind of interesting how, when I'm making a guide for a dungeon, I'll learn things about the dungeon that I never knew existed just by looking at, like, abilities that, I'm always like, oh yeah, this ability does damage, and that's all I thought about it for years. But then I actually look at the tooltip, and I'm like, wait, it has like a hidden effect that you can actually play around. I never knew about this. And then that's like a little tidbit of information I could include in my guide. So that's something that I found really fun, but the reality is it takes a ton of time to actually make one of those guides. It's not easy. And because there are so many people out there making dungeon and raid guides, it's really hard to get your foot in the door. I mean, some of my earliest raid boss guides honestly did not do very well, like really, really badly. And they're still not performing, I would say, at a level that justifies the amount of time I spend making them. Because, I could make a video like this, which takes virtually no time to make because I'm literally just doing stuff and recording, and then I just upload effectively the raw, uncut footage to YouTube. Or I could spend literally weeks scripting, recording, and editing a dungeon guide, which takes just an inordinate amount of time, and then I get, 10,000 views on one guide? Which, don't get me wrong, 10,000 views is good, but 10,000 views on a video that takes me weeks to make versus a few thousand views on a video that takes me a few hours to make, it's not comparable. So at the moment, right, in terms of actual time investment, my leveling guides aren't there yet. They're not... I don't want to say paying off, because that makes it sound more like monetarily, but it feels like the effort I'm putting in hasn't been fully recognized. But I feel like, obviously personal biases, right? I do feel that the amount of effort and, care I put into my guides, just in general, but specifically with the Dungeon and Raid ones, is, frankly, more than a lot of the other guides out there. I mean, the reality with anything, right, is you need to study your competition. So one thing that I always do when making a guide on a particular subject, be it leveling, dungeons and raids, etc., is I look at other guides. I look at another person's guide on that same dungeon. And I'm like, okay, how does mine stack up to this? Is there anything that they're doing that maybe I can do similarly? And, obviously there's a difference between directly copying somebody and taking inspiration from it. I would like to think that all my guides are authentically mine, but there definitely are some things where if you see that somebody's presenting their information in a certain way, you can be like, hey, I can see how that might be more informative to somebody. But generally speaking, once again, personal bias speaking, I do like to think that I convey the information in a better way than pretty much every guide that I've seen, at least recently. Probably the gold standard to me that I always try to hold my guides up to, and I still don't think I've gotten there yet, is Fat Boss TV. So I know a lot of people are probably familiar with Fat Boss guides. I absolutely loved Fat Boss's raid guides back in the day, and I genuinely think they were probably the best boss guides. I don't think Fat Boss didn't really make dungeon guides as much, but raid guides, that was the place I went to for all of my raid guides. And yeah, I'm not on that level yet, even remotely, but that is kind of what I strive for. I'm trying to, improve my guides until they are at that quality. And obviously, I'm only one person, and I have way less time on my hands because it's not like a full-time job at this point in time. But definitely, that is kind of what I consider to be the gold standard for making guides, and I'm constantly trying to get it to that point. I don't know how I got into the subject. Yeah, all I'm trying to say is, I guess, I've been trying to expand with different stuff, but it is good to, every once in a while, go back and, do one of these leveling runs. And I guess on the topic of that, in Dragonflight, whenever I actually get alpha and beta access, it's kind of tilting seeing like everybody in my guild get into alpha, and I still don't have alpha access. So people keep asking me, when are you going to cover Dragonflight? And the answer to that is, I'll cover Dragonflight when I get access to Dragonflight. I don't have access to Dragonflight, unfortunately. I'd imagine I'll get into the beta, because I've gotten into literally every single beta since MOP, I think. So that much is usually easy enough to get into. But from what I've heard, in order to get into the alpha, you either need to get really lucky, or you need to know somebody at Blizzard. So a bunch of the people in my guild have connections at Blizzard, and that's why they, have alpha access, and then some other people just happen to get lucky. But the reality is, yeah, I am neither one of those. I don't know anybody at Blizzard, and generally speaking, I am not incredibly lucky, so, you know, no alpha for me. But whenever I do get access to it and I can start doing leveling stuff, I plan on doing a lot of testing runs. You know, same thing I kind of did going into Shadowlands, except probably, like, infinitely more. Because going into Shadowlands, you know, my guides didn't really pick up until, like, the last week or two of beta. And by that point, there wasn't much time to do testing, but I still did. But presumably, whenever I get access to beta, will be, like, a good month or so out, bare minimum, from Dragonflight. So I'm going to spend pretty much that entire time doing testing. Probably not just making leveling guides, that's going to be one focus, but, you know, dungeon guides, potentially raid guides, if my guild's able to do raid testing, etc. So that should be fun. But that's, I guess, more in the future. And I still don't know when I will actually gain access to that, so we'll see. And speaking of guilds, so my guilds at the moment, obviously not on this character because this character's on Emerald Dream. Am I actually... Oh! That's cool. I'm still in my friend's old guild. He made this such a long time ago. But yeah, this is my old character in Emerald Dream. On my main... the guild I'm in now is Occasional Excellence, which is actually, I'd like to think, not like, you know, an insanely top-end guild, but a pretty solid guild. I mean, I've known about them for years before I joined, just because they have a lot of people in there, like I said, who are, like, pretty well-connected. Like, the GM is Babylonius, who is the, I guess, owner of Peak of Serenity. I'm pretty sure he's the owner of the Discord, but... I mean, I know for sure that he's, like, the main Windwalker person, you know, primarily because he's always talking about Windwalker, and he did, like, the interview with Max and stuff, but, you know, there's a lot of other people in the guild that are relatively well-connected and stuff like that, and it's, so far, I've been here for 2 months now, and I've really enjoyed my time here. Like, I have no complaints. Like, every single time I join a new guild, I have, like, some drama to talk about, something that I'm like, there's something up there. Yeah, I have some issue with it, right? And, you know, I usually bitch about it during my speedruns, but this guild, genuinely, I have no issues. I really like it here, and quite frankly, I hope it continues to work out. I mean, they've been around for a while, so that's one nice thing. I don't really think I need to worry about the guild just falling apart randomly, which has been the case for a lot of my guilds recently, unfortunately. But also, it's just, the environment is, like, really chill. It's, basically, I've always said that if I, you know, my ideal raid environment, if I could, like, make a perfect guild, would be a place where people still take the game seriously, and everybody tries to, like, improve and play their best, but the actual raid environment is still chill and laid back, and, you know, people aren't constantly at each other's throats and, you know, being super toxic and stuff like that, and that is literally this guild to a T. They're always, like, planning ahead, like, they have discussions for strategy and stuff. They're always trying to make sure that they get everything planned ahead of time. They have, I mean, experts, literally, at every single, I wouldn't say every single, but most classes, who will, like, sit down with people and try to help them out and give advice. Like, I mean, hell, I played Brewmaster for years, and although I'd consider myself to be a pretty damn good Brewmaster, there were still things that they managed to teach me that I didn't know about. Like, specifically, Babs isn't really, you know, a Brewmaster person, but the raid leader, Schlim, and one of the other guys in the raid team, Pal, who is Brewmaster Theory Crafter and one of the moderators in that Discord, they both, like, told me some, like, little, it's, like, minor stuff, but, you know, stuff that I'm interested in, like, tips on managing stagger, and they have, like, weak auras that they use to track that stuff. And generally speaking, I've always been, like, I wouldn't say against using weak auras, but I've always found that weak auras don't really help me as much. You know, some people are ride or die, like, oh, I need to use weak auras, etc. But I haven't really found many weak auras that I find super useful, but they actually shared me a stagger management weak aura that I guess they made, and honestly, it's really good. I've been using it for, you know, at this point, yeah, 2 months, and I've gotten pretty used to it at this point. It's definitely way better than, like, the default stagger tracking. So, I guess that goes to show that no matter how experienced you are with the game, there's always something more that you can learn. And also, I like the environment. That's the thing. They're always offering, either me or somebody else, like, little suggestions on how to improve. They're always discussing, like, strategy and, like, how they can perform a boss better. And they're also, on that note, like a 2-day guild, right? So in only 2 days, they still managed to get a pretty crazy amount of prog done. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure they're the most progressed 2-day guilds. At least I don't know of another 2-day guild that's further along than them. And I would credit a lot of that to the fact that they do an insane amount. Like, honestly, sometimes I even tell them that I feel like they plan too much, which, it's good. But I almost feel bad for them because a lot of times they'll, like, plan super far ahead. Like, they did, they spent such a long time figuring out the math behind how we could skip the second intermission on Anduin. And we managed to do it, but, they spent such a long time, at least that's how it seems, figuring that out. And it's impressive, but, God, I can only imagine how much work that must all take. So, definitely, I guess I don't envy the fact that they spend all that time working on it, but the results show, right? When they, get everybody sat down and explain the strategy and, show all the prep work and stuff they've done, it's great. So I definitely really like this environment. I know I am, like, somewhat gushing about my new guild, but I do really like it here. And I guess I'm finally happy that I can actually do one of these things and talk about my guild and not have negative news to share. It's a novel concept, right? I can actually say positive things about my guild. So, I guess I'm happy with my current situation, and I just want to share the fact that I'm happy about my current guild. Because I've spent so many of these sessions bitching and moaning about guilds that I've been in, so it's nice to actually talk about something positive for once. And on that note, speaking of negative experiences, now it's been, like I said, 6 months since I've done one of these things. And in those 6 months, I had 2 guilds fall apart. So the guild that I was in for a lot of the stuff I did during SOD and, like, early Sepulchre, the first ones, a lot of those people showed up in, my videos and stuff. And, they're still great people. That guild fell apart purely due to burnout. It was Beef Society on Illidan. Great guys. I'm still in their Discord. And, every once in a while, like, I still, pop in there and, like, we talk about bosses and stuff. Like, that's the kind of thing about... I like guilds like that where, despite the fact that... Does Chromie Time get automatically disabled? No, okay. Because I've noticed... I'll shelf my current thinking for a moment and talk about what's going on in the actual, run, so to speak. But I've noticed that on level 48 characters, you actually cannot enable Chromie Time, which is kind of bad. I really do think Blizzard should fix that. It automatically funnels you into Shadowlands. You have no choice. But it looks like if you hit level 48 and you already have Chromie Time enabled, then you're fine. So I was kind of worried about that because I noticed that was happening. And I was wondering if that was like a recent change. But no, apparently it's only for existing 48 characters, which is odd, but alright. But yeah, anyway, back to what I was saying. So I do like, guilds like that where everybody's just, like, friends and stuff like that. So even after the guild falls apart and everybody's, gone their own separate ways, I'm still friends with everybody from that guild on BattleTag. I still talk to them in the Discord. It's just, it's nice. Even though the guild fell apart, I still get to keep all my old friends. So in that regard, I have nothing negative to say there. The only unfortunate thing is I did a video which... I was really proud of that video. I spent a lot of work into it. It was very lengthy, but it was the dangers of drunk raiding. And that was this guild that fell apart due to burnout. And I remember I think it was either in the video or I mentioned it in my Discord, but the guild leader was planning on doing a second drunk raid sometime during Sepulchre because everybody had a lot of fun during the first one. And I mean, I thought it made for... Whoops. But I thought it made for a great video, so I was looking forward to doing that. And I definitely mentioned at some point that when we did the second one, I would make a video on it. And unfortunately, because that guild fell apart, it doesn't seem like that's something we'd be able to do. Because I did ask them about it. A bunch of us were kind of saying like, if you guys decide to play at all in season 4, we should, put together like an old guild reunion trunk raid or something like that. But, they don't really seem interested in doing that, which is understandable, right? The reason they stopped raiding was just, they were kind of burnt out in general. Uh, Obviously, raid leading takes its toll, and I think the main issue in that case, from what I heard, is it was intentional, or it was originally a guild built on like IRL friends. Like a lot of them work together, and they were all like relatively, I wouldn't, high level in terms of like getting cutting edge and stuff, raiders, and they decided that because, they all were having issues finding their own guild or something in Nyalotha, they decided, hey, let's, form our own guild. I didn't know them at this point. I only joined them in SOD. But by the time I joined them in SOD, apparently a lot of their IRL friends had already quit and were no longer raiding. So it was only like the officers that were all IRL friends. And they were kind of just getting burnt out in general because they kept having people, say they were going to come back and be like, oh yeah, I'll play this patch. And then they would play for 2 weeks and then get bored and quit. And, one of the things about, guilds like that. So I know a lot of people, maybe when they heard me say, oh, it was like a guild of friends, probably said, oh, I know where this is going. Because I've had a lot of guilds in the past where there is, an element of favoritism in terms of, guilds of friends, where, oh, the, IRL friend gets the raid spot. And it's bad form, bad etiquette, I would say, but it is the reality in a lot of situations, and it's kind of understandable, right? You may not like it, but you can understand why somebody might make that decision because, obviously, we're human, right? We don't want to burn our own personal IRL friendships just for the sake of the game, even though, for anybody saying, oh, but that's not how it should be, I agree with you, right? I do think that when you're in an environment of like mythic raiding, performance should come before anything else. People shouldn't get, spots just because they're friends with the raid leader. But that is how it works a lot of the time. And that's not how it worked in this guild. Absolutely not. Which is why I liked it. Because I really liked how, they still managed to, raid with a bunch of their friends, but everybody was held to the same standard. Like, even the raid leader sat himself, or not the raid leader, the guild leader. So one of the officers was the raid leader, and then the guild leader was one of the DPS, and then he tried re-rolling healer, and he was struggling a bit at that, and overall, he was underperforming, so the guild leader himself literally sat himself because he decided that he wasn't performing up to the standard that, he set for the entire raid team. So, a lot of guild leaders in that position would just say, oh, I don't care, I'm the guild leader, I get a free raid spot. Not him. No, he honestly took a pretty big step, one that I've never seen people do before, and actually sat himself. And I had a lot of respect for him because of that. I think he's a great guy, and that's one of the reasons why I'm still friends with a lot of them, even though the guild fell apart. Yeah, Darian, shut up. Wait, what the hell? Oh, wait, because... Oh, yeah, so I've never done the WAD intro, so I was able to do that. But like I said, I did the Gorgrond skip, where on this character, when I boosted it, and I went into, where is it, Gorgrond, and I still did Tanan jungle stuff. So in theory, okay, I can't do any of the Garrison intro because I already did that. I even have the shipyard on this character. Ah, shit. Well, interesting. So this is going to be a little bit different, but I guess it works out well because technically speaking, Gorgrond is more efficient, especially if you have fast flying. One of the reasons, a lot of people ask why not do Gorgrond at low levels, and the reality is all of this content, except for the WAD intro where flying is disabled, but all of WAD content is designed with, I wouldn't say with flying in mind, but with like fast travel in mind. So a fast mount you kind of need, but flying makes it so much easier. So it's pretty much just way more difficult to do Gorgrond's sub level 30, but even more so sub-level 40, because there's so much travel. You save so much time doing it after level 40, which is why that's kind of what I aim for in the route. But yeah, that's something I've explained before, but in case, you're new-ish to the channel and you missed some of the earlier runs, that's the reason why we save Gorgon for later. But obviously, if you're catching up a character, that doesn't apply because you've already caught up, you've already gotten flying and stuff. You know what I'm saying. I don't need to explain this, hopefully. Drinking coffee real quick because I made myself a cup of coffee before we started, and it's been 40 minutes and I haven't touched it. Got distracted and ended up talking almost the entire time. So that's how it goes. But yeah, so where was I? Now, yeah, so that guild isn't terribly interesting. The one where it just, fell apart due to burnout. I did want to quickly mention that. Laughing Skull. Oh, okay, there they are. So it is working correctly. Just took a second to load in. Yeah. So I can do these quests, hopefully, mostly normally. And just to make sure it's still scaled properly, yep. Everything's working. But yeah, I did want to mention that guild just because I think, like I said with my current guild where I'm happy with them, even though that guild didn't work out, I think it is important to note when, guilds set good examples, and despite the fact that that guild may not have worked out in the long run, I did think the way they ran things was commendable. I think they set a really good example that I hope other guilds, will try to follow. But I know... the reality is most guilds... I shouldn't say this just in case. You have the Anvil Gamings of the world who... aren't necessarily the best guild. And I do happen to know now that I have, some viewers in Anvil Gaming. So on the off chance that one of you is watching this, I don't hate your guild, but I do think that some of the ways that you do things is, or at least from a management point of view, is maybe not the best. And that's, I think, I guess, on the side note of Anvil Gaming, which is, I suppose, something that has happened in the last few months. I figured out that, I know people in Anvil Gaming, right? So on that note, I do find the whole idea of people hating on Anvil Gaming kind of weird, because, like, it is kind of popular, right? Like, a lot of people, hate on Blazon, hate on the guild, and it is important to mention that Anvil Gaming definitely is a bit of a weird case in terms of World of Warcraft guilds. There's a reason why people, meme on them, I guess. Some of the stuff that Blazon says is very odd. Some of their practices are weird. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just honestly Google Anvil Gaming WoW or something, and you'll get a laugh out of some of the stuff you'll see, probably. There's a classic forum post, I think, is where it originally started, where Blazon basically explains his experiences with raid leading and tries to give lessons to new guild leaders. And he basically says exactly what not to do if you're trying to build a good guild. And, it's a pretty amusing read for anybody who actually knows how guild management works. But I do think the interesting thing about that forum post in particular is it does describe pretty well what a lot of guilds at a low mythic level are like. And credit to Anvil Gaming, I say low mythic level, they have managed to get cutting edge. I think all 3 tiers this expansion, which is good. That actually does speak volumes. And I think, for better or for worse, that's one thing that I'll never understand. Dislike Blazon's leadership style or not, you can't deny that the guy gets results. And does he do it through means that some people may consider, I wouldn't say unethical, but kind of shitty, I guess is probably the best way to describe it. He has pretty much an endless revolving door of new recruits, and a lot of people complain that he doesn't actually care about his members, and he treats people as just expendable trash. And I do think that is a fair criticism, but, the guy does run a successful guild at the end of the day. Successful, in quotes. He gets cutting edge, right? They're not breaking new ground, but, his goal was to get himself and his guild cutting edge, and he succeeded at that goal. And yeah, dislike him if you want, but it is somewhat impressive that he managed to do that, despite the fact that everybody shits on him for it. Savage Fight Club. And also, I will say on that note, I don't think Blazon is a bad person. I've seen a lot of people giving Blazon specifically shit. Same with, like, other people in Anvil Gaming. Like, I kind of felt bad watching, it was when they... My quest log is full. That's not good. I guess I need to clear out some of this. Oh, I have a bunch of really old quests. Oh, this is from the pre-patch. Right. Let's see. Titanic Effort. Huh. I guess I'll hold on to that. Oh, that's for the special weapon thing. Murloc Eye. What is this? Oh, I think... Okay. Either way, I might need to actually clear out some more. I have a lot of crap in here that I do not need. Normal difficulty... should probably hold on to that, because I'm not going to be able to get it back. I don't even know. Vol'dun? Well, I don't need Vol'dun quests. Definitely want to hold on to that. Rokun, I don't need that. Suramar, don't need that. And... don't need that. No idea if I'll need that. Probably not that. Alright, we've probably cleared out enough quests. But, yeah, I remember I was watching Anvil Gaming when they killed Jailer. And one of my friends in Anvil Gaming, one of the healers, made, admittedly, a mistake that I wouldn't necessarily say cost the kill, because it was kind of like he could have recovered what, could have been a kill by covering for somebody else's mistake. Somebody else made a really bad play, and because he didn't cover for it, even though he was, the only one who could have covered for it, it ended up being a wipe. And it was kind of surprising to me how many people were just, like, shit-talking this guy in Blazon's Twitch chat. And basically being like, oh, this person's a dog shit player. Like, he's so shit, he missed that, he missed that soak or whatever. Why is this guy in your guild, etc., etc. Saying, like, really mean stuff. And, like, to a certain extent, I think at this point, Blazon plays into the meme. But you do have to remember, hopefully everybody watching this knows. I'd like to think that everybody watching my videos is, like, mature enough to understand this, right? But these are, like, real people on the other side of, whatever video or stream you're watching. Throwing random abuse at them is really bad. And especially when it's not even the person streaming, it's somebody in their guild. So if a streamer is, like, putting on a personality, etc., first of all, still not okay to, throw abuse their way, right? Obviously, need to make that clear. But I would say it's one of those things where I guess it's less bad than doing it to a random person. Because if somebody, a lot of streamers do have, a kind of an ongoing, like, I guess, in-joke with their audience where it's like they say dumb stuff and, their audience, like, gives them shit about it, right? It's more acceptable in some communities to... I guess, criticize streamers and be like, X streamer is shit, they made this mistake, etc., etc. And a lot of times, it's all in good fun, right? But, the people in the guilds aren't always signing up for that. So, seeing a lot of, like, just hate directed at random members in the guild who are just trying to show up and raid and kill bosses, they're not, participating in any of, like, the in-jokes of the stream and stuff. They're just trying to do their job. And it's like, everybody makes mistakes in raid. It makes me kind of upset because, imagine if you were just like, some random person just trying to, do your job in a raid and you just had a really bad night. Like, really off night. You knew that you performed like shit. you made a lot of mistakes, and I'm not even saying this was the case for this guy, but just let's say you had a really bad night and you were playing like shit and you knew that you were playing like shit and you felt awful about it. And then you looked in your guild leader's Twitch chat and you saw people saying, oh, this player is dog shit, you should kick them out of your guild. Like, imagine how that would feel. That would suck. You know, on top of already having a bad raid night, some random person is saying you should get kicked out of your guild. It's really shitty. So, you know, I can understand all that to say, I guess, I can understand the memeing on Anvil Gaming, like, you know, the joking about, you know, Blazon #1, you know, it's going to be like a top 100 guilds, and, you know, kind of joking about the way that he leads his raids. Like, yeah, you know, he doesn't do a great job there. And as long as it's all in good fun, it's fine. I think Blazon at this point plays into that. But attacking him as a person and attacking, you know, especially the people in his guild, that is something that I've seen a lot of people do that I don't get it. Like, that is just shitty, no matter how you slice it. It doesn't matter if it's Anvil Gaming. They're still people. They're still just people playing the game, trying to, you know, have fun and kill bosses. Like, it's not okay to, you know, shit on them just because they're, you know, a meme guilds in a lot of people's eyes. So, I wanted to put that out there, because I got on the subject. You know, I guess if you're watching this, hopefully you know I'm never able to stay on topic. That's why I had to write myself a script for the start of this video to get through in only 2 minutes, because if I did not have the script, I would have spent 15 minutes at the start. I probably would have had to, like, edit it down, because that's what I've had to do with a lot of my speedruns. I just take way too long to start it, and then, you know, one thing I've noticed, if you take too long to start a speedrun, you get a lot of comments which are just timestamps to when the run starts. It's like, even if you have timestamps in the video, it's like people have this passive-aggressive way of telling you that you take too long to start your videos, that they just link the timestamp. Or sometimes they will just put passive-aggressive comments like, if anybody wants to skip all the rambling, go to this. This is when the actual run starts. Shit like that. Which, I mean, it's kind of annoying, especially if, you know, some runs I have a reason to be talking like that. Like, I have to explain, hey, before the run starts, during the run, I won't have time to explain this new tech, so I'm going to outline it real quick in the first 5 minutes just so you know what's going on. And then, you know, there's an important reason why I do that, and people, you know, bitch and give me shit about it. But, you know, that's why I had to script it. Because otherwise, I would have rambled. I always ramble. And that's just kind of how it's going to go. But anyways, Anvil Gaming side rant over. Now time to talk about my last guild, which, well, I guess technically speaking in that sense, the Anvil Gaming stuff isn't completely over, because the guild I was in before this one is a guild called Storm Rage GG. And this is actually how I first really came to know about Anvil Gaming outside of, like, a few memes. So I heard about Anvil Gaming, but I first really found out about them from my old guild leader. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not going to go into a ton of detail here, because there's a lot of, like, really bad stuff that I might actually make an entire video about, like almost an expose video about my old GM, maybe, not 100% sure. But let's just say he was not a good guy. I haven't really kept up with him, but he did a lot of really scummy shit, and I've documented all of it. And it's one of those things where I'm kind of deciding, like, is it actually worth compiling into, like, its own video? And it's one of those things where it's not even, like, a guild drama story. I'm talking about, like, actual shady, like, IRL shit. But, you know, whatever. It's a separate topic. I'll maybe touch upon some of that as I get further into the story. But, point being, I joined this guild, and one of the first things that I noticed is that this guy had a massive hate boner for Anvil Gaming. Like, he considered himself Blazon's rival. I won't say his name. I mean, it's one of those things where you can look up if you want to look up my old guild. I already said the name of the guild because that's just super easy to check, right? But this GM basically considered himself to be, like, the rival of Blazon. Like, in his mind, he and Blazon were, like, competing to, you know, see whose guild was better, when, you know, the reality is, it's like, that Thanos meme, right? You know, Blazon doesn't even know who he is. So, Blazon is this guy's biggest enemy. But to him, or to Blazon, this guy is just an absolute nobody. He's just some dude who scammed him out of like a few million golds back in SOD, which I'll get to. But this guy, basically, the short story is I joined a boosting community, effectively, that was masquerading as a guild, is the short way to describe it. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Obviously, if it really was so cut and dry, which is frankly what a lot of people would have you believe, Anvil Gaming in particular, that was the story that they repeated a lot of times, that it was, you know, let me actually find the copy pasta, because the reason Anvil Gaming gets into this, I know I'm pedaling back and forth, right? But a lot of people in Anvil Gaming, as much as I joke that Blazon didn't know who he is, they knew this guy and they hated him. They just didn't see him as an actual rival, because he did scam them out of gold, and they were, you know, trying to make sure that people knew that he was a known scammer, which is one of the many things that, as I mentioned before, has IRL consequences, especially when you factor in that he did a lot of RMT. So he's scamming people out of gold, but then a lot of times he also scammed people out of real money. But the copy pasta that, speaking of Anvil Gaming, why the fuck am I getting pinged? Blazon did an @here ping for Anvil Gaming versus Prince Malkazar. Fucking hell, I literally muted the server because he wouldn't stop pinging. Suppress all role at mentions, suppress average. Fucking hell, Blazon. Like, God, you don't need to ping at everybody for your fucking Prince Malkazar kill, which, like, come on. It's Prince Malkazar, man. Like, that is old news. It's fucking Karazhan. Anyways, so if I go into the old guild Discord and I look at the channel, so here we go. Rolling Bear to I just said his name, whatever. I mean, he's kind of known. Rolling Bear to Chondrius, formerly known as Bearlicious to Chondrius. And maybe, actually, you know what? It's not so bad that I'm saying his name, because this guy genuinely is a known scammer, right? So, I guess it's not like I'm making it like super public, right? If you're, you know, one of my viewers and you're watching my video, maybe it is probably a good idea that you don't buy a boost from this guy and potentially get scammed, or don't boost for this guy and get scammed, because he scams his boosters and the people that he's selling to in, you know, equal measure, right? Just so you know. So yeah, Rolling Bear to Chondrius, formerly known as Bearlicious to Chondrius, has tried to hide the fact that he is coordinating a boosting community and fronting it by laundering with the guild Stormrage GG. Never forget, his day of reckoning will come. So that is a copy pasta made by Anvil Gaming, and they would spam this in in Sepulchre General Chat like every single raid night. It became a meme in the guild because it is kind of funny, but honestly, it's true. Like, everything stated there is true, with the exception that he, you know, this guy, you know, Rolling Bear, did actually try to a decent degree to make that guild a reality. But I think it was more along the lines of, he kind of figured if he was going to use a guild to front for his boosting community, he might as well try to make it good. And I'm friends with one of his former officers, who, you know, now they kind of hate each other. But I've kind of, like, asked him for the full story, and one of the things he said is that, yeah, it was absolutely, from its inception, meant to be a guild intended to cover up, like, boosting stuff. Because if you aren't aware of the policy changes, basically, when Blizzard changed boosting communities, they made it so you can only boost as a guild. You can't have a Discord community. So what he did is he still used his same old Discord community from back in, you know, the old, like, actual boosting community days. He just made a guild based around his boosting community so that he could basically change nothing, keep operations running exactly the same, and then say, oh no, but it's a guild, so he could avoid getting banned. Now, he hasn't gotten banned yet, so I mean, I don't know if it's because of that, or if it's just, you know, Blizzard didn't really give a shit anyway. But either way, yeah, it worked, I suppose. And for the record, I mean, I didn't know this was the case before I joined. I will say, I found out, like, about a week into joining the guild, and at that point it was kind of like, I didn't really know what the guild was going to be like, so I think after discussing it with my friends, if it was just me, I probably would have left. but I joined with two of my friends, and then a third joins the week after. And we kind of collectively decided that, hey, let's just give it a shot. Let's see if this guild ends up being, a complete dumpster fire. And if it is a complete dumpster fire, then we leave and we find somewhere else. And it ended up being actually pretty solid. No thanks to this, RMTing scamming GM, right? More because of this officer who, like I said, he now hates. Because that officer, who will remain nameless, because I definitely don't want to get exposed, because he's received enough harassment. Which I'll get into the reasons why he's been harassed. It's thanks to the GM. But basically, he completely ran the guild. The story that he gave me, this is the short story. Obviously, I have the entire thing listed, which if I ever make a video about this, I would go into the details because it is fairly interesting in my opinion. He was a member of this boosting community. And he didn't actually raid with, my old GM or any of the other people that then later on joined the raid team. What the fuck? That was a weird stun. So he was just doing his own thing and boosting with them on the side. And after the whole boosting change thing occurred, my old GM floated the idea. I keep saying my old GM, Rolling Bear. I've already said his name, right? Rolling Bear floated the idea to my friend of, hey, why don't we make our own guilds that we could, continue to sell boosts as normal? That was 100% the idea behind this guild. And, my friend basically said, I don't know, it could be cool, but I think I just, want to focus more on raiding rather than, boosting as like a full-time thing. And initially, Rolling Bear was, kind of saying, okay, yeah, sure, maybe that could work. And eventually, when my friend applied to a guild and had an offer ready to go, like he had already transferred over to the server that he was planning on raiding with, basically Rolling Bear messaged him and said, actually, I changed my mind. Either you come to Chondrius, which was the server I raided on, and help me make the guild and, be the officer for the guild, or I'm kicking you out of the boosting community and you're dead to me. As far as I know, those were some of the exact words. At least the "you're dead to me" part was definitely said as like, you're never going to be boosting with me again. So basically, if you want to remain in the boosting community and you want to continue to make gold, you need to help me run this guild. So my friends, considered temporarily leaving, but I mean, this is unfortunately a reality in a lot of those situations. He at that point was heavily reliant on the gold. He was used to having it, so he just figured, fuck it, I'll see what I can do. I'll try to, help him run this guild, and that way I can stay in the boosting community and continue to make gold. So he went over and he did that. And basically from day one, it was made clear to him, not to the rest of the guilds, that he was going to run the entire raiding side of things, and Rolling Bear was going to handle all of the boosting side of things. Now, one thing that I was kind of annoyed when I found this out, because, obviously by the end of the time I spent in this guild, I realized that was the case, considering Rolling Bear basically spent zero effort trying to help out in the guild. But pretty much the entire time that we were raiding, he would always try to act like he was doing stuff. So he was the 21st man raid leader, which, I mean, we didn't really need a 21st man raid leader. Most of his callouts were completely unnecessary and something that somebody in the raid could have done. He didn't really add much. His strategies were rudimentary at best, poorly researched. He would just kind of look something up before raid, and that was it. And the main thing is, this guy is, I shit you not, a pathological liar. He would lie about literally everything and anything just for the sake of lying about it. So he had this whole story about how he used to raid with pieces back in the day. I don't even know if he was in pieces at all. But one thing I do know for sure is that he was not actually a raider for pieces, but apparently he was just in pieces and he was like a social or something like that. But the way he put it, he was like a main core progression raider of pieces, and he was like a valuable member of the team. I'm sure everybody has met this type of person where, everything they say is like, oh yeah, I was amazing, I was integral, the team would have been dead without me, right? And meanwhile, it's, I'm not even sure if he was in the guild at this point, because I've just heard so many lies from him, And it's one of those things where he's never been able to provide any proof. I'm not going to ask him directly because I've always been, obviously if he ends up watching this video, that won't happen. But I've been trying to like stay somewhat, I say friends, but more just, in contact with him, even though I haven't talked to him for a little while. Just because, the more information I can get, the better. It helps me protect my remaining friends who are still in contact with him. Because once I found out some of the more, like, really bad shit that he was doing, I messaged some of my former guildies in this guild and basically said, hey, here's some extra information on our former guild leader and the stuff that he's done. Probably want to steer clear of this guy, because a lot of them were still planning on, like, doing boosting. And thanks to that, I think a lot of them made the decision to just, not really get involved with the boosting side of things anymore, which, definitely for the best, because, he probably would have just scammed them. But anyways, getting off topic here, let me refocus. This guy, like I said, pathological liar, would make up stories about literally everything. And one of those was that, he used to be in pieces. And because of this, he would always act like he was some, raid strategy planning savant. Like, he would basically, if anybody suggested a strategy thing, he would act like his was better just because it came from him. Just honestly a really annoying guy to deal with, except he was the GM. And the worst thing is, this guy, genuinely dogshit player. Like, I don't say that often. I like to try to be nice to people. This guy is fucking terrible. I've co-tanked with him because he played Guardian Druid, and he wasn't even my co-tank in Raid. My co-tank in Raid was awesome. Great player, and I really enjoyed playing with him. But every single time my co-tank wasn't available for, like, carries or something, because, yes, I did do carries with them. Obviously, not after I found out all the really bad stuff, but early on, when I thought it was just like, oh, it's still a boosting community, I'm like, well, obviously, I'm not going to get involved in any RMT shit, so I figured, well, as long as, I keep, my hands clean of all that stuff, then I don't need to worry, right? And then when I realized how bad it was, that's when I stopped getting involved, but yeah. Definitely, I will fully admit that I did some boosting with them, and during those runs, a lot of times, he would be the one tanking, and he was so fucking bad. Like, this guy died to everything, he did, like, no fucking damage, and every single time he actually tried to come into the raid group, he was one of those people who's, like, he's a druid, right? So he tries to act like he knows how to play every spec, but he's dog shit at Boomkin, dog shit at Resto, can't do any healing, can't survive any mechanics, and he always has an excuse as to why it's not his fault. It's like, oh, well, I didn't do a lot of healing because, all my heals got sniped or something. Or, oh, I died because, I was trying to cover for this other person who, actually made the mistake. It's just, and it's one of those things where, it's the GM, right? So I can't say shit, but I have to just sit there and go, oh, yeah, okay. Oh, no, that makes sense. I understand why you died to that. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting here like, God, this guy's so bad. But, I don't want to get kicked from the guilds. Because I still had my friends in the guilds, and, I didn't want to, ditch my friends. So I had to just, grin and bear it, right? And just an overall frustrating experience. I also, one of the other things is I met a lot of people in that guild who were actually really cool, which is kind of the funny thing about that. That guild, outside of the GM, who was a massive dirtbag, lots of cool people in that guild. I made a lot of new friends. And then one of them actually ended up joining Anvil Gaming and stealing the mount from Blazon, which is a completely different story. But, I mean, that was really stupid and immature. Otherwise, he's a nice, fun guy to hang out with, but God, that was the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen somebody do. Stealing a mount from Blazon live on stream. But, anyway, getting off topic again. So, basically, I've already described how much of a piece of shit my old GM was, Rolling Bear, right? But the main thing that I really disliked is how my friends, the officer in that guild, would spend so much time trying to, like, plan out the strategies and whatever, and Rolling Bear would always take credit for it. He was always acting like he was the brains of the guild, like he was the 21st man raid leader who did all the planning, and basically, he would take credit for everything the guild did, when in reality, he wasn't even on the raid team. He was the 21st man sitting outside of the fucking raid, doing absolutely none of the work, because all of the raid planning and a lot of the raid leading was done by the officer, my friends, So he did nothing, but he took all the credit. And it's like a minor thing, right? Like, obviously, it doesn't affect me specifically, the fact that he would take the credit, but it just pisses me off. Like, that's the kind of stuff where it annoys me to see somebody, you know, trying to take credit where it's not deserved. Because at the same time, every time you take credit when it's not deserved, that credit usually is taken away from somebody else who did deserve it. In this case, the officer, who did put in all that effort and wasn't, at least in my opinion, fully recognized for that effort because the GM was trying to, you know, steal all his thunder. So that kind of pissed me off, but it you know, it's a minor thing. But really, the guild fell apart for, oh man, it was some wild shit. They were a 3-day raiding guild, so they raided Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, pretty standard schedule. And we killed Rygalon. And after killing Rygalon, Blizzard announced that, you know, Season 4 was going to be coming out soon. So suddenly we realized that we didn't have super long to actually get cutting edge. So what was their solution to this? Because we were only just starting Jailer Pod. Well, their solution was to change to be a 7-day raiding guild. And yes, you heard that right. 7-day raiding guild. So they decided that now they were going to... They put it up to a poll. I guess credit to them. Alright, nice. I finished this. I guess I picked Rend and Tear. Love relearning talents that I already got in this character years ago in Legion. I guess that's a minor thing. So, okay, stop the timer. 1 hour, 8 minutes, so solid. I mean, it's one of those things where even though technically my world record for this is like 4-something hours, the last few levels are always the longest. So I don't actually think this was terribly long. I would say you can take 10 minutes or so off that from when I was, you know, fucking around in Blasted Lands. But overall, that's like normal. That's about as much time as you'd expect this to take. So, next character, we've already seen how this goes, so I can like close splits, and then, okay, yeah, it's reset. I think I might actually get teleported before the logout, so we'll see how that works. Anyways, point being, so this guild moved to be a 7-day guild, and I was not on board with that for obvious reasons. I mean, it really shouldn't be hard to explain why I'm not okay with raiding 7 days when that's what I didn't sign up for, or that's not what I signed up for. Words, right? So this is one of my old prop paladins that we're going to be doing. But yeah, so I was not cool with that. I was not happy raiding 7 days, and I told them as much. And I was ridiculed by the GM, this guy, Rolling Bear, for not being, oh, I already went to lock mode on. Okay, so I forgot that I already kind of partially set this up just because, yeah, the flight path takes like a little while. So I'm going to start the timer now. If you want to add the 5 minutes for the flight path to the time, I guess you can do that. I don't know. Whatever floats your boat. So I've decided to do lock mode on instead of Duskwood because personally, I feel that lock mode on overall is a more efficient zone, but Duskwood is still pretty good. It's close. Obviously, in the full route, you do both, and I think you'll always do both. The only thing you would cut is Red Ridge, which is why I didn't mention it at the start of this video. It's efficient in the grand scheme of things, right? But if you have to cut a zone, it is definitely the zone that you cut. Alright. So, lots of good quest density here, which is the main reason why. And then we're going to, I guess, do this first. That guy. We'll see if there's any rare mobs. There should be one in this area. I imagine it's, you know, what, 4 a.m.? Yeah! Not a lot of competition for rare mobs at this time of night. So that's good. Bonus experience. That's one of the perks, honestly, of leveling in old zones. You know, sometimes you just find rare mobs, and it just makes your experience way faster. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Rare mobs are not required for... Woo! We had a chance! Alright, this is a blessed run. Blessed run. But yeah, rare mobs, chests, they are not required to make this stuff efficient. But, oh, man, does it feel good. Look at this experience. Oh, that's like 3 gold bars. Oh, I love chests. I will never not get excited by seeing a chest. It's so exciting just seeing it. It's just like, oh man, that's 3 bars of experience right there. That is so much time saved. It's one of the reasons why I love old Catazones. I really hope they bring back random chests like that. Because, you know, it's random, right? But it's fun randomness. It's cool finding chests out in the world that give, like, cool shit. It's one of the reasons I like Classic. And I will say, I might actually get into Wrath Classic speedrunning. I have no idea. I always said I don't care about, like, original Classic speedrunning, because that shit's, like, 5 days long. Fuck that. But I think in Wrath, it's, like, it's still long, but it's not, like, 5 days long. That's something I'll talk about in a little bit, because I actually do want to talk about my Wrath Classic plans, because that is a major topic that I want to cover. But anyways, to finish up the topic on this guild. Alright, so I'll finish up on the guild angle. Basically, I left the guild after that because the guild leader tried to ridicule me for not wanting to raid those extra days, because he was like, oh, you know, if you're really dedicated to the team, you know, you would do that. And he tried to say that because I cared more about, you know, my own personal schedule than helping the team get cutting edge, that, you know, I wasn't like a team player, which, you know, I reminded him at that point that I had literally geared up and swapped to Blood Death Knight for Anduin, specifically because we did not have somebody to handle grips in the downstairs phase. So, like, you know, if you're gonna call me not a team player, how the fuck do you explain the fact that I literally geared up an alt, which I don't even enjoy, for the record. I don't really like Blood DK currently, which I know a lot of Blood DK mains are probably, you know, just squealing in fear, like, oh my god, how could he say that? My favorite class, you know, my Gavel. I don't think it's fun. You know, it's fun to see Gavel go burr. I guess that's the one thing I'll say about it. Gavel makes Blood DK, like, passable at the moment, but I think the core playstyle of Blood at the moment is just so fucking boring. It was a little bit better before the nerfs, when it was, like, really fast, you know, and it had a high skill cap and stuff like that. That was enjoyable, and then Blizzard nerfed it, so then I was like, okay, well, this is just fucking boring. Compared to other tanks, at least. I think Brewmaster is more fun to play. I think Prot Warrior is more fun to play, because I think if you're looking for a fast-paced, resource-based playstyle, like, Banner Prot Warrior is just exactly that. It does more damage in a lot of situations, and it requires more skill in many cases to, you know, keep Banner up. So I've been enjoying that way more than playing Blood DK, but that, once again, is a completely different rant. Anyways, yeah, so that pissed me off. Long story short, I said, fuck this, and after we killed Rygalon, I left the guild. Basically just said, you need to find a new tank, because if you're going 7 days, I'm out of here. And then, you know, later that week, I applied to OE, and I got in. OE being Occasional Excellence. And, well, the rest I already discussed. I've been really enjoying it here, so I definitely don't regret the fact that my guilds fell apart in that instance. Probably the best thing that could have happened to me, really. But the problem with that is a lot of my friends didn't have the exact same reaction. Some of them had quit by that point, but a few of them stayed behind because, you know, they weren't willing to find a new guild. Now, at a certain point, I'm not going to go, like, full-on sunk cost fallacy with it, right? If I know that the writing's on the wall and I'm like, okay, this guild is fucking dog shit, what they're doing is stupid, and I'm not going to stand by with this, you know, I'm just going to leave, right? I'm not going to invest time in a guild that I know is going nowhere, that I know is making extremely dumb decisions and destroying, you know, their own team, right? So I left early, but other people stayed. Thankfully, the guild only took 2 days to die after I left. I'm not saying I was the reason. I don't really think I could possibly be the reason when they decided to raid 7 days. That's very clearly why their guild fell apart, right? But still, it was kind of shitty that they did that, because a lot of people in that team didn't end up getting cutting edge. Now, thankfully, every single one of my friends, or except one, but he didn't give a shit. One of my friends is like, I don't know if anybody's seen the Gromnak clip. I'm sure a bunch of people watching this have, where he's like, you know, oh, it's push week. And some survival hunter said it's push week and then got kicked out of the guild. And, you know, I've been joking with one of my friends that I joined that guild with, that is literally him, because he is that exact person described in the clip to a T. He plays Survival Hunter. Every single time you ask him to do anything, he'll message, "It's push week," and then he's always doing keys, and half the time he's not even getting score from it. The way that he described it to me is he said he'll basically do like 20 keys a day, or more than that, sometimes 30 keys a day, and he'll maybe get score from like 2 of those. And he'll just slam his face into key after key after key, hoping that in one of them, things work out and the group actually, succeeds. And personally, I mean, I just don't get it. I don't know if anybody watching this is like big into pushing M+, but I am not. At least not to that extent. I enjoy pushing with friends. Like, if I'm, doing keys with my guild, trying to fill vault, and a bunch of us are like, hey, let's try this plus 24 and see if we can time it. Yeah, it's, the kind of thing of, hey, we'll try it, and then if we end up failing miserably, we just complete it and still get vault credit. So it's more of like, yeah, we'll try to push keys, but if it doesn't work out, no big deal. But the idea of just slamming your face into keys endlessly, 30 times a day, I don't get it. But yeah, that was one of my friends, basically, the It's Push Week guy. Not the literal one in that clip, but just he's exactly like that. And although he raided with that guild up until, I think, Lords, after that, he just quit, and then he did not bother finding a new guild. And I told him I would, like, literally write a recommendation for him. I wanted him to get Cutting Edge, because it's like, he got up to Lords of Dread. He was an insanely good DPS. Like, he got Cryptic Hero, the title. He's really fucking good, but he just said, nah, I'm too lazy, I'd rather push keys. So he literally threw away the easiest Cutting Edge of all time because he was, too addicted to Mythic Plus, which, I mean, it's his choice. Obviously, I know, I mean, I don't care, right? It doesn't affect me, but I still joke with him, like, the fact that he's just so addicted to M+, that he just could not be asked to find a new guild, despite having really good logs, and despite already having progged all the way up, minus Ragolon, all the way up to Jailer. So hey, some people just decide, not feeling it. But everybody else in that guild that I joined with who did want to get Cutting Edge, who actually did decide to find a new guild and stuff, they managed to get it done. Which I guess is what matters, right? All my friends managed to. Actually, no, I take it back. One of my friends actually did it. One of my friends that I met in that guild, unfortunately, was not able to get Cutting Edge because he had, like, a work vacation directly after, the guild disbanded, and he wasn't able to find a new guild in time, so unfortunately, yeah, he wasn't able to get it. But, shit happens, I guess. But a lot of people just on the raid team who, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm not friends with them, but I'm, like, not really friends with them, like, more acquaintances, I suppose. Like, I raided with them, they're nice people, but I don't really talk to them outside of, the old guild Discord where I pop in every now and then. A lot of them have complained that they just weren't able to find a guild because they basically just said, yeah, we're raiding 7 days, and then disbanded, like, a few weeks before the patch happened. Frankly, I mean, I was kind of lucky because there is a very real possibility that I could have been screwed over by that too. Because finding a tank spot is really fucking hard. If anybody plays tank and... oh, fuck. I'm one step ahead of where I should be. Yeah, so if anybody plays tank and has tried to, like, find a guild spot at a high level, you probably know how difficult it can be. A lot of guilds are not looking for new tanks. And even when I originally applied to Occasional Excellence, they told me that the tank spot they were recruiting me for was for after they finished prog. And they brought me in early just because, the tank had, like, the tank that I was replacing had an unexpected, like, IRL thing. Because it was... the old tank just was kind of burnt out on tanking, wanted to go DPS, and then she had, like, some IRL thing, which meant that they just brought me in way early. So I got lucky. I had a very fast, like, application process and immediately got back into raiding the week after, which worked out great for me, I guess, but very real possibility that I could have been screwed over by that guild disbanding last second. So... overall, just kind of an irresponsible thing to do. Nice, rare mob. I say irresponsible. Obviously, to a certain degree, it couldn't be helped, right? Like, it was a dumb decision, and they clearly didn't really know how to manage guilds. Like, I don't I don't necessarily blame my friends, right, who's doing a lot of the raid management for what happened, because I've talked to him since then and tried to, like, understand what actually happened with all that, and it sounds like he was doing his best to keep the guild together, and then because of a lot of the shit going on that I've kind of already described, there was just nothing he could do. The guild fell apart. But what I've gathered, based on both his story and talking to Rolling Bear, is that Rolling Bear decided, he just didn't care enough to really put effort into the guild, and he just decided it was easier to disband it and focus entirely on boosting, because he wanted to make a lot of money in the weeks leading up to Season 4, and he didn't want to have to waste his time 21st manning the guilds, even though, for the record, he wasn't doing much at all. So, I'm pretty sure if he had just agreed to, like, not raid lead and let somebody else do it, that guild maybe could have gotten cutting edge, if they didn't raid 7 days a week, if they had changed a lot of that stuff. But I would say overall, it's probably a safe bet that his ego is what killed the guild. His ego in thinking that they could raid 7 days, his ego in thinking that he was the only one who could raid lead the guild, and therefore, nobody else could take his place. Just a lot of poor decisions all around, mostly centered on him. I generally don't like to put the blame on one person alone, and I especially don't like to name them, but in this case, the reason why I have named him is because of the scamming. Because generally speaking, and I will say once again, I hope I said this earlier, maybe I forgot, but it should also go without saying, do not harass any of the people in my stories, even if I name them. Just because I'm telling you the name and the server does not give you an open invitation to go to that person and give them shit. That is not why I'm doing this. The reason I'm telling you his name is because what I found out in the time since leaving that guild is he has scammed a lot of people for a lot of both gold and money. He scammed one of my friends out of 2.2 million gold. He technically scammed one of my other friends for about 1 million gold. But it's one of those things where, he has like an excuse as to why he can't pay them. And that's kind of, how this stuff works, right? Like, a lot of the time, if he was just going around, twirling his mustache and going like, mwahaha, I have scammed you, right? Like, that's not how scammers actually operate. That's how a lot of people think scammers operate, but no. In reality, it's something where it's like he can find a loophole as to like, oh, well, because you said this or did that, it technically violates the rules of the community, and, therefore I'm withholding your, latest payment or something. And, ooh, we got another chest. So specifically in the case of one of my friends, the one who had 2.2 million gold stolen from him, what happened was he was getting his payment delayed constantly. Like, there was always a reason why they couldn't pay him. And this went on for like weeks and weeks and weeks. I don't know exactly how long, at least 2 weeks, possibly a month. I didn't see the entire logs, but all I know is it was a while that he wasn't getting paid for. Just constantly a reason why, oh, we can't give you the gold now. Which is why whenever I did boosts for this guild, I would always do like 1 week of boosting, and then I would say, I'm not tanking for you again until you pay me. And the reality is, early on at least, they were short on tanks a lot, so I got my payments on time. Whatchamacallit? This guy, basically, my friend would continually get, like, led on, like, oh, we'll pay you next week, we'll pay you next week. So he kept doing boosting, and he accrued 2.2 million gold in, terms of total payout over the course of multiple weeks, and he hadn't actually received it. That was like his total balance. And do I actually have a quest to go in here? I think I forgot to pick up the quest. I think I'm stupid. Damn. Well, that's unfortunate. I guess better that I notice now than later. Shit, I accidentally hit that mob. But yeah, so my friend had accrued this massive balance, 2.2 million gold, and he kept trying to get it paid out. And what ended up happening is shortly after the guild fell apart, as I mentioned before, my officer friend, who basically ran the entire raid team, he had a falling out with Rolling Bear. So Rolling Bear expected that my officer friend, even after the guild had disbanded, would stick around and basically help run the boosting community. And my friend was like, fuck that. I'm not gonna, stick around and just help you run the boosting stuff. I want no part in it. I just want to raid. I want to do my own thing. I want to find a raiding guild and just have fun. So he left. and he removed everybody from B-Tag. Initially, he even removed me. He removed a lot of other people. Later on, after all this stuff, I reached out to him and basically said, like, hey, I'm not bad at you or anything. Like, we can still be friends. So, we're cool now. But just to be safe, he basically went full nuclear, cut all ties, just in case, like, he didn't know if maybe Rolling Bear would try to go through me and try to be like, hey, can you, get this guy in contact with me, that type of thing. So he removed everybody. And before he left, he removed all the stuff from the old guild bank and pocketed it, which, sounds scummy until you realize that he was the sole person funding the entire guild bank. And he even sent me screenshots to prove that he had let Rolling Bear know days in advance of, hey, I'm going to be cleaning out the guild bank, basically saying, like, I'm going through, I'm auctioning off everything. And Rolling Bear did this weird thing where, like, he told the raid team that, oh, we're gonna, like, divvy up the remains of the guild bank and, like, split it evenly between everybody in the guild, which, sounds great in theory, except that really wasn't Rolling Bear's thing to offer. He offered to split the entire guild bank amongst the raid team, but it's like, personally, I don't give a shit. I never contributed to the guild bank. I'm the type of person who, if somebody needs a flask, I'll trade them a flask. And, I try to help where I can. But I bring all my own consumables. I show up to raid every night with 20 flasks, 20 armor kits, 80 potions of Phantom Fire, 80 cosmic healing potions, etc., etc. Oh yeah, 80 spinefin souffle and fries. I have everything I need. I don't rely on the guild bank in any guilds that I've ever been in for anything. I like to be completely self-sufficient. I don't want to, feel like I owe anything to anyone, right? That's just my personal approach. But the reality is, like, because of that, at the same point, I don't feel like I'm entitled to anything in the guild bank. Why should I get, like, a portion of the stuff in the guild bank when I contributed nothing to it? So I thought that was weird because most people didn't contribute to the guild bank. It wasn't like we were all forced to donate to it. So the only person actually contributing to the guild bank and managing all the raid consumables was the officer, who was doing it with his own money that he earned by doing carries. So that was his already. It was not something that Rolling Bear had the right to give. And instead he made it out as if that was property that belonged to the guild. And by auctioning it off and taking it, the officer was stealing from the guild and therefore him. And he made this whole big stink about it, basically saying, oh, he stole from us and he, basically backstabbed everybody, when in reality, what actually happened is that officer decided, I want nothing to do with this, real money trading scammer guy anymore. I'm gonna just, leave, find a guild, and do my own thing. But because this entire thing stemmed from the fact that he refused to help Rolling Bear continue to run his boosting community. And basically, Rolling Bear felt so betrayed by that and so offended that he decided he was going to start making up random stories to try and ruin this guy's life. And, I mean, honestly, to a small degree, he succeeded. I will say he succeeded in bullying this guy off World of Warcraft, which, shitty. But as far as I know, he's, perfectly happy. He's taken a break from WoW and he's doing his own thing. So I guess, good for him. I'm glad he's still, having fun and making the best of it, despite the shitty situation. But basically, after this happened, Rolling Bear made up a story saying that he didn't just steal the guild bank, he stole 3 million gold. Or I think at the time it was like between 2 and 3 million. And we've been joking between, our friends that the number has been constantly increasing. Every time Bear tells the story, the number is higher. The amount that he stole it keeps getting larger to make it sound even more ridiculous. And I don't even think Bear does this intentionally. I think just in his head, he keeps thinking, I need to make it sound even more worse. So he just adds like another million to the number that this guy allegedly stole, even though he stole nothing, right? And Bear, obviously, in case, that wasn't perfectly clear, has provided no evidence that any of this story that I'm about to tell you is true. Even though I directly asked him, I literally said, oh, can you prove that the story's true? And he basically said, like, oh, no, there's no way to, like, get the screenshots or whatever. He's hidden it well. He deleted our DMs. Some weird shit. Basically, all this to say, he has no proof, right? So he made up this story that the officer my friend actually stole, around 3 million gold from him. And by stealing it, he meant that he had collected money from boosting. So in case you're unaware of how boosting works, right? A lot of how it works is, the people, and this is obviously how, Blizzard has stated this is not how it should work. I'm not saying this is how it should work. This is how boosting historically has worked, and this is how they still ran things, because like I said, they basically changed nothing. They just ran a boosting community, and used the guild as a front. So just to make that clear. But basically, there's people in the Discord. So they have their own boosting community Discord. They have people sign up and basically order a boost. And then they say, I want to buy a boost at, X time. And they get lumped in with a group of other people. Then all the boosters get messaged and they get told, hey, at 4:00 p.m., we're doing a Heroic Jailer boost. And then people sign up, they can say if they're coming, etc. Then at 4 p.m., everybody shows up, the buyers get invited, and then the buyers trade the gold to whoever is leading that group. So Rolling Bear, for instance, may be organizing the boosts, but he is not always in the group. And you'll notice one of the main things stated in the new terms of the boosting community, revision stuff is that the person organizing the boost has to be present in the carry. In case it wasn't obvious, yes, he was not doing that. He was obviously not doing that. It's the most basic thing. Show up to your own fucking runs that you find the buyers for. Yeah, of course he wasn't doing that, right? So he would organize the boost, then, he would send the buyers in the direction of whoever was running it, which a lot of the time was that officer, right? He's the officer of the guild. If he happens to be doing the run, he would organize it, right? He would collect money from people. So a lot of times him or the other people, in the boosting community, so like my co-tank ran a bunch of it. One of the healers ran a lot of that stuff. One of them would collect the gold, and then they would just kind of sit on the gold. So they would sometimes get up to like 3-4 million golds at any given time, which wasn't theirs. They would just be holding on to it. That was like the payment for the run. And then maybe like at the end of the week or something, they would basically send all of the gold to like a banking alt or something. Just some random alt that is used to basically collect it all in a guild bank. Then, they figure out, okay, who needs gold on which server. They basically pay money to transfer over a full guild bank of gold to the, servers where it's needed. Nice, another rare mob. And that's how they handle a lot of that stuff. So it's done basically in bursts. So what ended up happening is after severing ties with everybody, the officer didn't realize that he still had around 3 million gold on one of his alts that he had collected for a run and had never actually traded. Because it was the kind of thing where this, the guild all imploded early on in the week, and usually, like I said, at the end of the week is when they do all the collection stuff. So, honest mistake, right? Like, he had collected all this money. I think it had even been delayed by a week, is what he said. They hadn't actually done the collection the week prior. So he had, like, basically a week and a half's worth of carry payments sitting on one of his characters that he doesn't, actively play, just waiting for it to be collected. And then he completely forgot about that and, did all the stuff with, severing ties. And when this was pointed out to him by Rolling Bear, who basically reached out and said, hey, you stole all this money from me, right? He said, oh shit, sorry about that. That was a complete accident. And he mailed the gold back to Rolling Bear. And this is where it becomes problematic, because then Rolling Bear claims he never got the golds. And the unfortunate reality of the World of Warcraft mailing system is that there is no clear tracking system. There isn't a clear log of, so-and-so sent mail to another person. Even if because they did try to submit a ticket and contact GMs, and the GM literally said, I can't get any info on this. Like, they literally do not keep a log of who sent who mail. Apparently there's like an add-on that does it. And then that was another weird thing that Rolling Bear tried to say, oh, well, if you had this add-on, it should show that, you sent mail to me. It should record it. And the officer said, I don't have that add-on. And it's an add-on that I've, never heard of that apparently keeps track of mail. But that was, his big smoking gun. He was like, well, because you refuse to show the proof on this add-on that literally nobody has heard of and uses. I don't even remember the name of it. You know, you're clearly trying to hide the fact that you didn't actually send me the gold or something like that. And I even kind of said at the time, because I was trying to mediate a lot of this stuff, I was like, you know, that's kind of bullshit, right? Like, I've never heard of that add-on. I don't know anybody that uses that. You know, he proved that, yeah, it keeps track of mail when you send it. It keeps a log. But it's like, just because you happen to have that add-on doesn't mean every single person in the world has that add-on. So, weird. But basically, the argument boils down to, you know, you might say, oh, well, how does somebody claim they didn't receive mail if the other person, you know, claims they sent it? So obviously, it really boils down to one person is lying. Either Rolling Bear, who I've already said, and this is obviously, you know, in case it wasn't obvious, I don't believe him. I absolutely do not believe him because I've already said I think he's a pathological liar. But either Rolling Bear is lying or my friend is lying. And yes, I am definitely biased in this case, but there's one of two things that happened. Either the guy who is a known scammer, who, and he has admitted to this, he's not admitted to scamming in his own words, but every time I've confronted him with a story, and I say confronted, I try to, obviously, I'm not going to, you know, try to burn a bridge by being like, why did you steal money from this person? I'll bring it up, you know, casually. I'll say something like, oh, hey, you know, just curious. I was talking to this one person. They mentioned like some story about you where they said like they, you know, they bought a carry from you and like, you know, you didn't pay them or something like, or you took their gold and didn't give them a run, or like, you know, they did a boost for you. Which speaking of Anvil Gaming, I guess I teased this earlier, so I might as well say it. Anvil Gaming briefly boosted with this community back in Sanctum of Domination, and Blazon apparently did a run that admittedly went really poorly. I think both sides of the story, from what I've heard, it was a run from hell. Like, it did not go well. Basically, it was way over time. It was just a mess, from what I was told. But still, they got the run done. And at the end of the day, you know, even if it is not the cleanest run ever, that's the kind of thing that you work out after the fact. If they get the run done, you still pay them. But because of that, Rolling Bear decided, well, because you didn't get the run done to my standards, I'm just not going to pay you. And this is something that he apparently did a lot to people until, you know, a lot of people stopped running for him, because you can't just randomly refuse payments. It doesn't work like that. And that was one of the issues. He would randomly just decide, you know, this is now a rule. I have now decided that the rule is if it's not done to my standards, you don't get paid. You can't do that, right? Obviously, it's not like World of Warcraft boosting isn't a regulated market. But that's the kind of thing where, you know, IRL, right? If you or if you said you were going to pay someone to do something, you never stipulated like, oh, you know, if you don't do it XYZ way, then, you know, I won't pay you. And then you just didn't pay them, they could sue for that, right? I mean, there's murky legal waters there. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know that shit. But I'm just saying it's obviously really shitty. No matter how you look at it, whether it's illegal or not, which obviously it's not illegal in World of Warcraft, but whether it would be illegal IRL or not, you know, it's murky territory. I think everybody can universally agree it's a dick move, right? That's the thing that's safe to say. I think I need to talk to... Yeah, it's this quest that I need to pick up. That's where I go. Okay. But anyways, yeah, so that was the thing with Anvil Gaming. So I think he refused to pay them out like a few million golds from that run because it was a full SOD run. And then they ran into issues with Sylvanas. And that's the thing. It was only Sylvanas, apparently, that they struggled with. So that's why it's particularly egregious. If it was just the Sylvanas run and they struggled with that, it's bad. But they did the entire raid carry, which is usually a lot of gold. And after however many hours, like 3-4 hours of doing the run, they didn't get paid at all. Yeah, I'd be pissed if I was in Anvil Gaming. Especially if I was just one of the raiders, right? Like, a lot of it had to do with, once again, his personal beef with Blazon. And because of his personal beef with Blazon, a lot of innocent people ended up not getting paid for 3 hours of work, which is, once again, really fucking shitty and scamming. So, not good. Don't do runs for this guy. Don't buy from this guy. He's a scumbag, once again. But, all that to say, where was I? Right, so the stuff with my friend. So, he basically either he's lying or my friend's lying. And what it boils down to is he claims he never received the mail. So it's possible. There three things are possible, basically. Either my friend didn't mail him the gold at all, which is just kind of weird because, he already has a shit ton of gold. He doesn't need it, right? And his entire purpose for severing ties was specifically to get Bear to leave him the hell alone. Like, he literally said, I want to be done with Bear. I want him to fuck off. I don't want him to bother me anymore. So that was the entire reason why he cut ties in the first place and tried to find his own guild. And then, he's just going to randomly steal gold, which is obviously something that Bear's going to give him shit about. It doesn't make sense. But it especially doesn't make sense when now, hindsight's 2020, he literally quit the game, right? He said, I don't want to deal with this harassment. I'm just going to, go do stuff IRL that I've been putting off. I don't want to play WoW anymore with this shit. Like, he just couldn't be fucking bothered. So, and obviously it's not conclusive proof. Neither side has proof, right? Because my friend can't prove that he didn't, or that he did send the gold, right? Because there's no tracking of mail stuff. All he can prove to me is by flipping through his characters, which he did, and showing me that he doesn't have the gold. And then, of course, you can make the counter argument of, oh, well, maybe he has it hidden somewhere on, like, a random character that he didn't show. But all I can say for sure is that on all the characters I saw, he didn't have the gold, which, yeah, obviously can be faked, but it's just the kind of thing where I personally believe him, right? Or, and this is the main thing, Bear is lying. And Bear has everything to gain by doing this, because what he's doing is basically saying, I didn't receive the payment. So he gets to pocket all of that gold, which, mind you, if you want to think about why this would benefit Bear, because you might think, well, why would he benefit by accusing him of taking his own gold if he's just going to keep it? It's not Bear's gold. So that 3 million that my friends supposedly stole, that wasn't Bear's gold to take in the first place. That was payment gold that would have later then had to be distributed amongst the people who participated in the run. So what he's able to do, and this is my theory, my hypothesis as to what happened, is that he received the payment and then thought to himself, if I claim I never received this and accuse him of stealing, then I can basically say, well, this gold is gone, I guess I can't do payments, and I can keep the whole thing. So I can keep the entire 3 million, I don't have to pay out any of the people that this was supposed to go to, and I can just say, well, tough shit, if you're upset that you didn't get paid, you can go harass this guy who stole it. So he has everything to gain, he makes a lot of money by doing this, and he gets to send people, which is exactly what he did, for the record, send people to harass this guy who he's pissed at because, he ditched him and didn't help him run the boosted community. It's... now, once again, this is my theory. I don't know necessarily if that's what happened, but what I do know is that the gold is gone, my friend quit the game because Bear decided he was going to endlessly harass him, chase him down to every single guild he tried to join, and basically spew this story among other random bullshit things, which I tried to clear up. There were a few times where I talked to some of the GMs of, the guilds that my friend had applied to, and I'd like to think, I'm a fairly, I wouldn't say like, important person, but like respectable enough person where if I, message somebody, I'm like, hey, I have a reputation, right? Basically, I'm not going to sit here and talk out of my ass. All I'm trying to tell you is, hey, this thing that somebody told you, it's bullshit. Everything that you've heard about this one person is completely made up. My friend is a good guy. He didn't do any of the shit that he's being accused of. And, I'd like to think that by vouching for him, it makes him a little bit more reliable. But the end result, and a lot of people, like what I got from one of the guild leaders that I talked to was like really hostile. Basically was like, I don't give a shit what you think, I'm going to run my guild the way I want to run my guild. Don't tell me what to do in terms of decisions, even though all I was trying to do is basically say, hey, my friend is innocent. It was a weird conversation. But most of the responses I got were people saying like, hey, I believe you, and, thanks for messaging me, but I'm still going to kick your friend anyway. Sorry, just because I don't want to have to deal with this drama. Because what Rolling Bear would do is he would say, oh, I'm going to continue harassing you, the guild lead. He would say this to the new guild leader. I'm going to continue harassing you and your guild until you kick this person out. So basically threatening them and saying, unless you kick them out, I will basically constantly harass you every single day. Which you would think, right? That's the kind of thing where you just, if somebody did that to one of my new recruits back when I was like leading a guild, I wouldn't fucking bend to that, right? I didn't have something nearly to that degree, but I did have somebody at one point, back when I was leading my guild, reach out to me and basically say like, oh, so-and-so is, a really bad person and they did this shitty thing to me. And I heard them out, but at the end of the day, I was like, thank you for letting me know. I'm not going to kick them from my guild though. I'll keep an eye out if they do something, I'll watch out for it. Thanks for letting me know. But the idea that like, you can just bully a new guild leader into like kicking people out of their guild, it's like, that's really fucked up levels of harassment. And the unfortunate thing is in this case, it worked. It only worked in 3 different guilds, but after the 3rd guild kicked him out because of Rolling Bear's harassment, my friend at that point just decided, fuck it, I'm done. He even went into the Rogue Discord. So my friend likes to hang out in the Rogue Discord. And, just talk to the mods and stuff. Just, he's, I wouldn't say, like, really good friends with them, but he's apparently, I asked him later on about this, like, he's been, like, talking in, like, the casual channels and stuff for a while. And he's, like, gotten to know them fairly well. And he just likes talking to them, right? So when he left his guild, or my old guild, right? When he left that guild, he said something to the effect in the Rogue Discord of like, finally left my old guilds. I cleaned out the bank and now I'm ready to like, find somewhere new. Just kind of like, starting up a conversation with some of his, as far as I know, buddies, right? And Rolling Bear saw him posting this in the Rogue Discord and decided he was going to flood one of like the casual chat channels in the Rogue Discord with, all this bullshit that I already said about, him stealing 3 million gold, etc., which, like I said, later on, I think by the time it got to this story, it was up to, he had stolen 5 million gold, even though that was nowhere even grounded in reality. Like, you could at least argue that his initial story of 3 million gold was based on the fact that my friend initially forgot to return that one payment. But later on, when he's citing figures like 5-6 million gold, it's like, where does that come from? You can't even make up a story as to why that's a relevant number. So, just, it's annoying. It just drives me insane trying to, like, understand this person and why they, like, just derive pleasure out of harassing, one of my friends. It's super fucked up, but it is what it is. And he eventually gave up. And the funny thing is, after that whole situation in the Rogue Discord, I messaged one of the mods, and I said something to the effect of like, hey, just want to let you know, somebody's like posting a lot of shit in this one channel, and, probably should delete it because it's, blatant harassment. I kind of gave brief background on the situation. And, I won't name that particular mod because I don't know them well enough to say like whether they would care to be named. But I did think it was funny because now that I'm in Occasional Excellence, I know Kojiyama, who's one of the Rogue Theory crafters, and I kind of brought this up to him like weeks after the fact, and I'm like, did you ever hear about that? And apparently he had actually read about it later on, and he was like, yeah, it was like fucking weird, like some guy was trying to like harass one of his old guildies in one of the casual channels, and I'm like, yep, I had to fucking deal with all of that. So apparently, yeah, the mods had to step in and moderate the whole fucking situation. Oh, another rare mob. Cool. And what they effectively said is, like, obviously, that's not appropriate anyway, but they basically did say to Bear, if you're gonna accuse somebody of shit like this, especially in a public setting, you need to provide proof, right? Like, obviously, if this guy is actually stealing 3 million gold from you and you're upset, right, just show us proof. And, then I don't know. I don't know what their plan was, but they at least tried to get him to provide proof, and he couldn't provide anything. So basically, they just told both of them to fuck off, including my friend, even though he hadn't done anything. He was just in there casually chatting, and then Bear decided to start the whole fucking thing. But basically told both of them, fuck off, take your drama elsewhere, and deleted all the messages from the Rogue Discord. So you can't find it there anymore. The moderators cleaned it up, thankfully. Which, you know, I wouldn't want anyone to find it because it was blatant misinformation with actually no fucking evidence backing it up. But it's just annoying, right? And especially, you know, I had to listen to, because like I said, Rolling Bear still thinks that I'm on his side, right? He actually doesn't know that I'm still talking to, you know, the officer. He thinks that I'm, like, fully on his side, like, oh yeah, fuck that guy, he stole money from the guild, blah, 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 blah. So I had to listen to him, like, rag about the fact that he, you know, harassed my friends at this point, and say, like, oh yeah, you know, I messaged his, you know, new GM, and I tried to be like a voice of reason. I was like, you know, I would kind of go like, ha ha ha, that's so funny, but don't you think you're taking it a little too far? Like, maybe you shouldn't do that. He'd be like, nah, fuck this guy, he stole from me, he deserves it. And I'm just sitting there, and I have to play it off because, you know, I want to potentially get more information out of him, but I'm just thinking, like, what a fucking scumbag. Like, I'm even trying to, like, say, like, you know, don't you feel bad for him? Like, you know, can't you just let him, you know, live in peace? And he's like, no, once somebody betrays me, I'll never let them get away with it. Like, this guy genuinely talks like a cartoon villain. It's fucking wild. It's just, God, this whole fucking shit. I mean, I will say, the nice thing about all this, the writing on the wall, because I was, the thought that immediately came to my head as I said that is, I was thinking like, man, I really do manage to find the worst fucking guilds, right? But hopefully, I mean, as far as I know, for better or for worse, no more guild drama stories after this one, right? Because, unless it's in Classic, I don't know, maybe I'll join some, like, really fucked up guild in Classic. That would be interesting. But, I mean, in retail, I plan to, you know, stick around with this guild for a while, and I can't possibly see any drama coming out of here. So, you know, I guess that's good, but at the same time, I mean, it is, as much as I do like to complain about, man, I really do find all the worst guilds, it's kind of fun, right? You know, I enjoy telling these stories as much as people enjoy listening to it. Like, I love telling the cheating officer story from back in Nyalotha. If you haven't seen that, by the way, it's, I think it's Speedrunning Alliance and Telling Stories is that video. I always like to mention that, because it's like, in my opinion, the best story that I've told, and I don't even think, like, my storytelling was special in any way. It's just such a fucking wild story. It's the craziest guild drama I've ever experienced, and I can still say that. Even after having to deal with, like, an RMTer and a scammer, nope, the cheating officer was still worse. That one was something else. And, you know, yeah, it was a fucked up situation, and admittedly, like, both in this past guilds, the one with Rolling Bear, and the cheating officer, like, in both situations at the time, obviously I was not having fun. You know, I was fucking miserable. I'm like, why does this keep happening to me? But later on, I mean, it's enjoyable to tell the story, I will admit. There's something nice about, I guess, turning bad experiences into, like, funny stories. I think that's, like, the essence of comedy, right? You know, you take shitty things that have happened to you in the past, and you turn it into a funny story so that other people can get enjoyment out of your past suffering. Which I guess is, like, the nice thing about comedy, right? I don't know, maybe I'm getting too meta with it, right? But I do enjoy that aspect of it. You know, especially when I look back on past experiences like that, it makes it seem less bad. It makes the memories not as bad, right? And on that note, I guess to quickly touch upon the cheating officer story. Oh, that's actually, yeah, that's a good, I didn't even think of this at the time. But I've mentioned in the past, so I guess I'll touch upon some details of that story. It's relevant even if you've already heard it, and if you haven't heard it, this is all you need to know. Basically, in my old guild from Nyalotha, one of the officers was cheating on his wife with one of the new Demon Hunter trials. And that Demon Hunter trial had also sent nudes to one of our Beast Mastery Hunters. And because the Beast Mastery Hunter was getting nudes from that same girl, he also found out that she was cheating with the officer, and he basically revealed it to the whole guild and caused the guild to implode because of that. It was a whole fucking shitstorm. And I told a bit more about that Beast Mastery Hunter, who obviously, it's like, I mean, you have to be some kind of crazy to be, getting nudes from a random DH trial, and it was this wasn't just one person that this happened to over the course of my time in the guild. Like, this guy would hit on every single female that joined the guild. He was wild, but I did say at the time that he was kind of an asshole, and he was also like, he had like a serious drug problem. And I did say that that was probably a lot of the reason why, some of his behavior was the way it was. Not excusing it, right? But obviously, if somebody has an issue like that, I think the last thing that I said to him before I left that guild entirely was like, seriously, dude, you're fun to play with, but I can't be friends with you. You need to get help. This is not okay that you keep doing this shit. And, in a funny turn of events, I actually ran into him while I was in this old guild, Stormrage GG, with Rolling Bear. Because he wasn't in the guild, but he was on the same server. So I saw him shitposting in Sepulchre the First One's general chat, and I recognized his name, and then I messaged him and I said, hey, were you that hunter that I raided with back in Nyalotha? And I gave him my Demon Hunter's name, which is what he knew me from. He was like, oh my god, Lon, I remember you. So after that, we kind of caught up, and I found out that, credit to him, he actually went to rehab, and, he cleaned up his act, and he's actually in a much better spot, which, I think that's an important update to give to the story. I've actually, I removed, because at the time when I told this, I used to keep a recording of a lot of the really dumb stuff that he would say, especially, and a lot of this was while he was, like, super duper high. Like, he would do a shit ton of drugs, then say some really dumb shit. So I kept a Google Doc recording of all of it, and I shared it in my Discord at the time when I told all these stories. Because at the time, this guy was an asshole, and I didn't include his name, but I shared the doc with all the stuff, basically making fun of him. And, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do, but I did think, because of all the shit that he did, and I didn't include his name, I was like, whatever. It's my personal Discord. I'll share this for people who care enough to see. It's like a funny little extra bit to the story. But I have since gone back and removed that from my Discord, because I feel like, if somebody's willing to actually go the extra mile and actually try to clean up their act, I think that's something that deserves to be commended. And at this point, I am friends with him again, and he seems like, an alright dude. Like, he's actually, fixed a lot of the issues that he had when I raided with him in Nyalotha. So I wanted to give that short update to the story, just as like a nice little thing. I guess an unintended, little happy ending to all that stuff. But funny little thing about that. That guy, I mentioned in the previous story that he had like a massive ego. The entire situation that arose with the whole cheating officer thing was we were in the middle of doing Mythic Plus dungeons where he and one of the other hunters were betting gold to see who would out DPS the other on the overall meters. And in the middle of those like DPS or those Mythic Plus runs where they were competing on DPS, that's when the DH trial joined the Discord and basically said, you sent my nudes to the entire raid team, how could you, that kind of thing, which I think I forgot to mention here, but I did mention that in the original story. He sent the nudes to the entire raid team, which is how everybody found out. But basically, when she confronted him about that, he was actively betting gold over whether he could beat somebody on DPS. And admittedly, that aspect of his personality, as far as I can tell, has not changed. He is still very much, he has like a massive ego in terms of like his DPS and stuff like that. So he's not really so much of an asshole anymore, but he is still very egotistical. But I guess he's egotistical in a fun way, is the most I could say about it. But because of that, when he applied to Stormrage GG, which is kind of how I like ran into him again and started talking to him again, he basically got into an argument with Rolling Bear about the fact that like Rolling Bear kind of fucked up the application process of the trial. Basically, he was supposed to come in on one day, and there was some like miscommunication. And then Rolling Bear, being who he is, basically said something to the degree of like, it's whatever, I don't want to trial you. You're not like a good player anyway. And then they got into this like whole big pissing match because, of course, it's like, the two biggest egos I've ever met. It was kind of, I guess, amusing for me because it's like basically a historical battle of like who would win of the two biggest like egotistical, idiots that I've ever met. One, my old friend from the Nyalotha cheating officer story, and one, my new guild leader who's an RMTer and scamming people and thinks he's like the best raider ever. So that was just a whole wild little experience and exchange. And the reason I bring this up, I could obviously go through the entire, conversation they had, which was hilarious, but that would take me forever. Is he then my old friend from Nyalotha brought me into the discussion and basically said something to the effect of, because I think they reheated their discussion. They kept like going back and forth and sending each other like little, what's the word? I guess they kept reigniting their argument over the course of like a few weeks. So after my friends joined a new guild and got Cutting Edge, my guild at that point, Stormrage GG, had already fallen apart, and Rolling Bear had quit raiding. So then my old hunter friends decided it would be a good idea to message Rolling Bear and link his Cutting Edge and say, whoops, I dropped this. Hey, by the way, how's your guild going? And then sent him a screenshot of, the fact that the guild had stopped raiding, like, the post of we're no longer raiding, that kind of thing. Basically saying like, hey, I managed to get Cutting Edge and your guild is dead. Ha ha ha, you should have recruited me, that type of thing. And then they got into this like whole big pissing match about like the fact that, he was still a shit player even if he got Cutting Edge, because then Bear was like, oh, it's the easiest tier ever to get Cutting Edge. You're so pathetic that you think bragging about getting Cutting Edge Jailer is impressive, blah, blah, blah. Just the dumbest fucking argument you could ever witness. But then my friend tried to drag me into it by saying, you should have treated Lenara, which is my demon hunter's name, which is what he refers to me as. You should have treated Lenara, so me, with more respect. You should have treated him like the god he deserves. And he said something like, he is the best tank ever. He is a world first parser. And if you had treated him with more respect, maybe your guild wouldn't be dead. Which I didn't ask for this, by the way. I never asked to be dragged into their own personal conversation. But then, of course, both of them, both my friend and Bear, messaged me about this. And my friend messaged me basically being like, yo, look what I said to your old GM, haha, isn't this funny? And then Bear messaged me saying, why the fuck is your friend messaging me shit saying that you're a world first parser and I should treat you with respect? So I got dragged into this whole fucking thing now, and now my nickname in the old guild Discord is Larice, which is my monk's name, comma, world first parser, because my old GM changed it to that to make fun of me for that whole fucking conversation he had. So, fun little anecdote. But that, I think, is just amusing, more so that it's a, like, worlds colliding thing of this brand new guild drama with the old guild drama. And that's something that I guess you don't really see too often, so I just thought it was amusing that it actually happened. Since I know a lot of people who watch my channel really liked the cheating officer story and all that stuff, and... well, it's here again. Oh, man, I just also realized that my microphone settings aren't correct. Oh, it's only been 2 hours into this, so if it isn't correct, well, I'm sorry. Let me just check. Audio input. It seems like it's correct. That is weird. I don't know why it's like it's showing. The worst possible thing that can happen is that I finish this entire session and I go back and look, and then like none of the audio's been working, so hope to God that hasn't happened, but it seems like it's still recording, because like on OBS I can see the audio levels like going up correctly when I talk. I'll figure it out after. I think my settings are fucked because I forgot to enable something. We'll see. I guess if the audio is like completely fucked, then maybe I won't upload this, so let's hope that the audio isn't completely fucked. But I guess if you're watching this right now, the audio can't be completely fucked, so it doesn't really matter. Anyways. Oh. But yeah, I think I've exhausted basically every possible topic that I could discuss in relation to that old guild falling apart. It was a shit show, and I guess the only thing that I could talk about is some of the more gory details about like the scamming and stuff. But I don't know. That's the kind of thing where, oh shit. No, 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 I want to turn in those quests so I can get a big chunk of XP. I think I can make it in time. But I'm going to get ported out in 50 seconds. Righteous Protector. I might be able to make it. It's, yeah, the Explorers League documents. Those are big XP. Each one, oh, it's actually not that much. It gets scaled down. Wait, am I automatically out of Chromie time? No, I'm still scaled. It's definitely nerfed values. But I mean, hey, I completed the quests. I might as well get credit for finishing them. Come on, 17 seconds. Come on, come on, come on, come on. 14 seconds. Oh, hit the doorway. Nope. Decent gold, too. Yeah, it was worth it. About a bar. That could have been worse. Okay, then we can stop this. So that was, I would say, about the same time. Oh, I didn't finish my coffee. I almost threw away my coffee cup without actually finishing all of it. Would have ended up spilling it all over myself. That would have been a disaster. All right, on to the final character, which is going to be the Silverpine Forest testing. So this video should end up being about 3 hours in total, which I would say is a good length, and honestly gives me just enough time to talk about the last few subjects. It's on Wormrest Accord. And also, I have the name Rafam on WRA. This was a mage I played back in WoD. So fun little side thing. But yeah, I have that name, which Rafam, I remember I made that character back when like the original League of Explorers thing came out. And since then, I mean, there's some potential that Rafam might actually be showing up in Dragonflight, which would be sick. I love Rafam. He's awesome. That's a topic I want to discuss later on. I'll probably end with that, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, that guild was a shit show, etc., etc. The main thing I want to talk about now is, actually, no, there was one last thing I wanted to say, right? So, on the topic of that guild, the only thing I haven't really gotten into is the exact details of some of the scamming. I talked a little bit briefly about the fact that he stole gold from... You know... Actually, I wonder. So, here's the thing. Technically speaking... I should close splits. Technically speaking, the fastest way in the actual leveling run to get to, whatchamacallit, to Silverpine Forest, when we do the runs, and this holds true, even today, is you talk to Chromie, then you gun shoes all the way over here, and down into the portal room, you go to Silvermoon, you run through with a speed potion, up to the Orb of Translocation, pop over to the Undercity, and then you run to Silverpine Forest from there. However, now, like I said, that is the fastest route for a new character, because if you take the Undercity portal as a low-level character, it'll take you into the depths of the Undercity, and it'll take you too long to get out. But with flying, if I take this portal here, I also don't need to wait for the elevators and potentially get bad RNG. I can pop right over here, I'll get Zero Dormy, go back to the original Tirisfal Glades, and now I can just fly straight to Silverpine Forest. And I don't need to go all the way down there. I don't need to use the Orb of Translocation, run outside of Silvermoon. This probably doesn't save a lot of time, but I'd probably still be in Silvermoon if we timed it equally. Should probably start this. Whereas this maybe saves 5 seconds. So this is like an inconsequential time save that doesn't matter at all, but I guess it's worth noting because, you know, time saves are cool. It's, you know, it's fun finding minuscule time saves. Just in theory, right? It's neat to think about, oh yeah, I could shave off 5 seconds by doing this in a different area. Yeah, it's the reason I like speedrunning. Even if it doesn't fucking matter whatsoever. I should also... Ooh. God, I was about to do my Brewmaster rotation. I haven't played Windwalker in a hot minute, so this is definitely, out of the specs I played so far today, this is the one I have, I wouldn't say the least experience with, because I have played Windwalker quite a bit, but the least practice with is definitely a good way to put it. Whew, should be fun. But yeah, definitely if I end up making a video on Rolling Bear, I have no idea if I will. But that's the kind of thing where, in that case, I would end up, providing more information. I think where I'm at right now is so to give like some, I guess, additional background, he has since decided to, quote unquote, end his boosting community. And what he's really done is put together a private team, which is, whatchamacallit, just doing the runs on their own, right? So he's not actually using like a Discord to organize things anymore. And the reason why I haven't actually decided to like publicly call him out like in a video or anything like that is because while he continues to do that, two of my good friends from the old guild are still financially dependent on Rolling Bear. And I'm not going to name them, but as much as I hate to say it, it's because of RMT. They have literally quit their jobs and, started working for Rolling Bear as as boosters and organizers and stuff. And they genuinely get paid like a somewhat living wage by doing boosting. So the problem is, I don't know if Rolling Bear's already scammed multiple people close to him. I don't know if he's going to try to scam them too. I don't know what the deal is, but I already tried to talk to them, and they both seem like they're pretty content with their situation. I'm not going to try to dissuade them to leave, even though I think it's the smart move, because why would you trust the scammer? But at the moment, this seems like the best possible opportunity they have, and they're my friends. So it's like an ethical dilemma, right? Do I try to publicly take this guy down and, expose him for being a scammer who has stolen millions of gold from people and actual money from other people? Or do I basically say, not going to really touch that for now, because hurting him would hurt his business, which would hurt my friends. It's weird. I feel comfortable enough talking about it in this scenario because the way I see it is, it's important that people understand that he is a scammer, so you don't interact with him. Like, if you're watching this video, don't interact with him. If you see one of your friends looking to buy a boost and they're looking to buy from Stormrage GG, like, just tell them don't do that because he's a scammer. But, don't go harass him. Don't do any of that weird shit, right? Even though he is an asshole, he doesn't deserve it. Nobody deserves to be harassed because, once again, look what happened to my friends. He got harassed and he ended up quitting the game, right? Obviously, in his case, he didn't deserve it, right? But I think that's the issue. Everybody tells themselves, oh, well, this guy I'm harassing, they deserve it, right? But harassing is never good. It's never okay because, once you cross that line, it's just, it's fucked. So don't do it. Should be obvious, but I feel the need to repeat it. But yeah, I'm letting you know his name for your own protection, right? Because if you engage with this guy, there is a good chance you'll get your money stolen. So, keep yourself safe, right? But at the same time, I do have information that could... Oh, did I? I didn't get credit because I wasn't close enough. Well, that's good to know. I specifically went away so that I wouldn't have to listen to the dialogue, so that I could, like, continue talking. But, I wonder, I think Hillsbred Foothills is probably faster. We're just gonna go there. I'm gonna look for rare mobs on the way, because obviously if there's a rare, that would be efficient. Yeah, so we got this guy. But the more I think about it, obviously losing that does suck, but technically speaking, I don't really save any time by going to Hellspread at this point. That's already 2 minutes lost, right? But the more I think about it, the more I do think Hillsbrad is probably, if you're only doing one of the two zones, it's probably the more efficient of the two. So I should probably do that, just to compare it equally. And get a bunch of rare mob kills while I'm on the way, because this is still a pretty good source. But where was I? Yeah. I think that's about it. I don't want to belabor the point anymore. I don't know if that's the right term there, but it's fun to say. You get the idea. If I decide to make a video about it, we can discuss it more then. For now, that's all I'll say. Shitty guild leader, scammer, blah, blah, blah. Okay, next point. Oof. Talked about that for probably way too long. But it is something that has been a significant part of, what I've been dealing with for the past few months. So I guess it's good to finally get it off my chest, right? But as far as other stuff goes, I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of plans for Wrath Classic. Now, generally speaking, ooh, Lost Son of Aru. It's pretty cool. Generally speaking, I'm not like a big Classic player, but I do think out of all of the potential Classic expansions, outside of, if they end up doing MOP, I would be very excited for MOP. But out of like the three main ones, like Original Classic, BC, and Wrath is the one that I am definitely the most excited for. Because, I mean, from what I've heard, Wrath isn't, ooh, chest, we take those. Wrath isn't necessarily hard, per se. But whereas Burning Crusade, outside of Sunwell, which unfortunately I haven't been able, or I never got a chance to do Sunwell while it was still considered very hard. I still haven't gotten a chance to do Sunwell, period, but I am hoping that at some point during pre-patch, I'll at least be able to run it just to see what it's like. Because I've only done it for like transmog farming. I've never actually run Sunwell itself. But I'd like to try it. I figure that could be pretty cool. But outside of that one specific instance, I mean, everything I've done so far in, TBC and Classic has been pretty easy. Like, I've heard Nax was moderately difficult purely because of, like, coordinating 40 people and stuff like that, made it challenging. And, like, gearing comp stuff was annoying. But overall, not necessarily a mechanically complex raid, which is more what I'm interested in. And obviously, everything I've done so far in TBC, while some of it was interesting, I found it to be kind of boring. And I did every single raid. I've actually, I mean, as like a minor note, I've put footage of me doing all the raids as like a members only video, which, just like a fun thing. I've uploaded a lot of stuff on there. It's like something I mentioned this like in a previous run. I think the TBC one that I did, I talked about how, well, yeah, I guess I did do a TBC speedrun, so it technically hasn't been 6 months since I've done one of these. And I guess, yeah, that counts. So, it's been a little less. But yeah, around the time when I did that run, I set up, like, memberships in the channel. It's basically just, it's the equivalent of, like, a subscription on Twitch, right? Just like an extra way to support the channel, help me continue doing this stuff, right? And I've also gone ahead and uploaded, like, a bunch of exclusive videos. It's not like, the way I see it is I never want somebody to feel like they need to give me money to get access to, like, content. So usually it's like unedited stuff. So, footage of, me doing like all the raids in TBC, trying all that stuff out, usually footage of me doing M+ dungeons. Some of that I even share on my Discord, completely for free, just if I feel like it. It's just there. I just figured I'd mention I have uploaded it just for fun. But yeah, so I did all the raids and whatchamacallit. Out of all of the bosses I did, I would say the only two that I found really interesting were why can't I remember her name? You're right, Lady Vosh. How could I forget that? Yeah, Lady Vosh. I actually thought Lady Vosh was a really cool fight. And obviously I did her post-nerf because I went through all the stuff fairly recently. But even then, I think just conceptually, it's a pretty cool fight. I really like the idea of like having to pass the orbs around and, break her shield. Ooh. Very cool. We take those. Neat. Got a level. Feels like that was fairly fast, but hard to say for sure. And then I guess there's one more rare mob in this direction. I guess I'll go kill it. Why not? And then technically the blue dragon over there is not one that I would normally get in Hillsbrad. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, so I think Lady Vosh conceptually was a pretty cool fight. I think that the whole final part of the fight where it's like it gets very hectic and you have like the little pools coming down everywhere and it's just kind of a race to the finish. It's like it's a very standard Enrage phase that we have in a lot of boss fights, but I still feel like it was executed well because the way that it happens with you're just getting overwhelmed by like Naga and bog creatures and just trying to finish her off, and space becomes limited, and there's all these fucking mind control guys running around. It's just cool. I think it's a cool fight. Not the most mechanically advanced by any means, but I really enjoyed doing Lady Vosh. I had a lot of fun with that fight. And the other one, I think, probably obviously, is Illidan. I actually think Illidan's a pretty good fight. Once again, not like the most amazing thing mechanically. It's, for the most part, still pretty straightforward, but it has some cool stuff. Like, I think Flames of Azzinoth as a mechanic is, like, pretty neat. Especially because I tanked it, right? So I had a full fire resist set. And partly that's just like my min-maxing brain really enjoying it. Having to like, put together the perfect fire resist set. Like I had, there's like these things called like Ethereum prison keys that you can get. And there's like these Ethereum prisons out in Netherstorm, and you can like farm them to get this cape that has fire resist and it has like agility and stuff. So in theory, the absolute perfect fire resist cape for Guardian Druids, or, well, Feral Druids, right? Which is what I was playing, is a fire resist version of the rare drop cape from those Ethereum prison keys. And I bought over 100 Ethereum prison keys at like 3 gold a pop, and just sat there for hours farming those stupid prisons until I got one of every single resist cape for at least, well, the ones that matter. I got a nature resist cape with agility. I got a whatchamacallit, fire resist cape, obviously, like I said, and then I got a frost resist cape for Hydros the Unstable. So I just, I was bored and I decided I want to make full resist sets, just for fun. So I did. And I got like the full theoretical BIS resist items, and I just enjoyed that. So it was really fun getting to do Illidan after like finally putting together my perfect fire resist set. And I was really happy about that. And then I got to do him and tank the little Flames of Azzinoth. And I think it's not the most, like, I guess, mechanically interesting fight, but it is cool how there's like a lot of diversity in the phases. With like, you can see some of it. It's like the same mechanics as Mythic Gul'dan, that like final secret phase, with like the little shadow fiends. So I recognize that. And then you have what's it called, the Flames of Azzinoth part, and then you have the part where like you have to have a warlock tank it, which in a lot of our kills we just popped all cooldowns and burned him before you actually got to that part. But if you did need to have a warlock tank, it was cool seeing him like turn gigantic and the warlock just sits there and soaks the blasts. It was pretty neat. And I think, in theory, Mother Shiraz could have been a cool fight, but we kind of like cheesed the hell out of Mother Shiraz, which made it like really not a terribly interesting fight. It was kind of boring because of that, but I don't know. I still think it was a neat fight in theory. It was kind of cool. But all that to say, rating, at least outside of Sunwell, which I can't speak to, I haven't tried, in TBC was not the most interesting. Like, Rules Lair was pretty boring. Karazhan is cool just because Karazhan aesthetically is a neat raid, but none of the fights were interesting. I think, to speaking to the fact that Anvil Gaming added everybody for their Prince Malchezaar kill. Prince Malchezaar is like probably the most boring fight I've ever done, especially with the cheese strategy, which of course is what I used, right? So you basically just sit in the corner, the tank gets whacked in the face, and people LOS so they don't die to one-shots. That's the entire fight. And because I have no real active mitigation as a tank, because that wasn't really a thing back in TBC, I'm effectively just sitting there getting bonked in the head by Prince Malchezaar's like super fast axes, and I just have to hope that my healer keeps me alive, and then sometimes they don't, and I get comboed, and I die, and the raid wipes. And it's frustrating, because I feel like it's completely out of my control, because my healers are shit. So, not a fun fight. Really did not like Prince Malchezaar. I had one Kara run die to that, which was depressing. Getting all the way there and then not even finishing it and getting my badges, that was annoying. But yeah, overall, Karazhan is still a cool raid, in my opinion, but it just... not the best boss fights. Just cool aesthetics. And then other stuff, I guess, I don't think a single boss fight in Tempest Keep is good. I think Tempest Keep is like a fucking horseshit raid. Like, there's just... all the fights in there are just, in my opinion, even Kael'thas. Kael'thas was boring. Like, it's just ads. I hated it. The only thing I liked in Tempest Keep is I did... there's like a bomb that goes out on the tank, and what's the druid ability called? I know it's called Wild Charge or Feral or Skull Bash in retail, but I forget what the exact name. I think it's called Feral Charge in Classic. But every time I got this like bomb on me on High Astromancer Solarian that would like shoot me up into the air, I would like stand out, and the moment I got shot up, I would use Feral Charge to get back down to the ground, which is honestly pretty standard tech for retail. But I thought it was funny because when I did that, it blew everyone's minds, and I had like a ton of people in Discord going, "What the fuck? Oh my god, you could do that? Oh, look at that bear tank. Holy shit, that was the coolest thing ever." And I'm just sitting there like, yeah. You know, I used Charge because, you know, you could use it right after getting knocked into the air to reset your momentum. It's like something that I consider to be the most basic tech that I've used a million times in retail, and I found it amusing that, like, these people thought I was a fucking god because I knew how to use Feral Charge after being knocked into the air. So, that was, like, the one fun experience I had in Tempest Keep, I guess. But otherwise, pretty lackluster raid, pretty boring. And, I guess, yeah, other than that, in Black Temple, I didn't really enjoy any of the other fights outside of, yeah, like I said, Mother Shiraz a little bit. I think, in particular, a note to Illidari Council is maybe the least fun I've ever had on a boss. Illidari Council is just so long, and, you know, if somebody misses the kick on the heels, it just takes fucking forever. So, I did not have fun. That was not a fun experience tanking for me. But overall, I have a feeling, based on everything I've read, that Wrath is better. I've heard Ulduar, at least for the most part, has like more mechanically interesting bosses. ICC, TOC, there's some like cool stuff there. So I'm excited for that to a small degree. I mean, I don't think it's going to be the most amazing thing ever. I'm not going to be like, you know, don't worry, I'm not going to be a WoW Classic content creator in terms of like, I'm not going to dedicate my entire channel to that. Like some people decide they're going to, you know, vomit out like classic content. I don't know. I hate doing like clickbaity shit, right? Like it also frustrates me, I guess, on a minor tangent. It frustrates me when people say that like something I did is clickbaity, because I never intentionally clickbait my videos. Like, I think, you know, there's the whole, every single time I bring this up, somebody's like, oh yeah, like the Veritasium video. It's like, yeah, there's a really good Veritasium video on like, at this point, it's been a while since I watched it. Type 1 and Type 2 clickbait, I think is the way you put it. Basically, you know, it's one thing to make like a catchy title and thumbnail that, you know, makes people want to click on your videos. And that's more just, yeah, like packaging, right? Like you want to package your videos in an interesting way so that people look at it and go, hey, that seems interesting. I want to watch that. That sounds like a cool subject. And then if within the video you actually deliver on everything that you said, well, then there's no problem. You delivered on the exact thing that you clickbaited in the or in the thumbnail and title and whatever, so there's no issue. You know, it's, I guess, ethical clickbait. And, you know, bad clickbait, in my opinion, is when the video basically tricks you into clicking on it, and the video is basically on something that you never would have been interested in because it was misleading, right? And absolutely none of my videos are misleading. You know, in fact, I had this conversation with one of my guildies. I mean, I say conversation. I kind of briefly mentioned it to him. I didn't want to, like, bring up the point because I wasn't going to, you know, be a dick about it. But one of my guildies, in this new guild, too, still nice guy. I enjoy running with him and stuff. But the one thing that I kind of mentioned, I was like, it's kind of shitty, is some of his thumbnails and titles. And he's like a new YouTuber, so it's not like he's abusing anything. He's like just getting into YouTube. He just started recently, and that's the thing. He actually, like, asked me for, like, some small tips, and, like, I gave him like some screenshots that I was using for season 4 testing, which he used in some videos, which I let him, you know, I said, yeah, just, I don't know, give me credit or something. But I was like, yeah, you can use my screenshots or whatever. But I did kind of mention to him at one point, because one of his videos had, like, a very, very, very clickbaity thumbnail where it was, like, blatantly misleading, like something about Demon Hunter, or Havoc Demon Hunter specifically, and it was like something that was definitely like it was basically going over a blue post, which that's not something I'm going to judge people on, because personally I hate blue post videos. I absolutely fucking hate somebody making a video on something that I can literally just look up in 2 seconds. It's like, why the fuck would I watch you make a video on a Wowhead article or a blue post that I could literally go and read myself? Like, unless you're bringing something meaningful to the conversation, why the fuck are you talking about it? And a lot of times, and I don't blame, that's the thing, I don't blame him, because a lot of people do this. The reality is, it's a known trend on YouTube for World of Warcraft content of fucking reading blue posts. So like I said, new YouTuber, he sees a lot of people doing that, and he probably thinks to himself, oh, well, you know, I'm a demon hunter, I should, you know, read demon hunter blue posts and give, you know, my own personal opinion on this change, which is basically good or bad, which, yeah, contributes nothing, really. So I don't blame him for that, but I dislike it in general. But it was like an intentionally misleading thing about what the Demon Hunter changes were. Like a really clickbaity statement that I knew what the changes he was referencing in the title were, and I was like, that kind of it implies one thing which is directly not stated to be the case in the blue post. I'm trying not to, like, describe it because I don't want you to be able to look this up and figure out what his video is. But basically, it was very blatantly type 2 clickbait, where it is misleading and tricks people into clicking on it because they think, oh no, Blizzard's changing X about Demon Hunter, when in reality that is not the case, and the video tricked you into clicking it. And I'm like, I don't know, man, that's not great. And that's the kind of thing that I never, ever want to do on my videos. And I see a lot of people doing that, and it pisses me off. And then it pisses me off even more when people still comment shit like, oh, this video is clickbait. Like, oh, this is such clickbait. Like, I get that a lot on, specifically, the Treasure Room of Zareth Mortis, which, I mean, I guess to a certain extent, I'm glad I made that video, because in an interesting turn of events, it is now my second most viewed video ever, which is fucking wild. Like, that video is about fucking, what's it called? Like, just some random little thing that you can do to get, like, you know, catch-up gear, right? So, I mean, if you're watching this, you probably understand the general purpose of my channel and what I try to do. And obviously, the reason why I made that video is because around the time when, you know, patch 9.2 came out, I was making a lot of stuff on alt catch-up. That was like a big focus of mine, like how to get your alt caught up to mythic raids. That was the focus of a lot of my videos. So I actually discovered that treasure room with the help of Whitehorn on Twisting Nether Europe, because, you know, PTR, you can play with people from Europe. So I ran into this guy from Europe, and he had happened to find some of the stuff in the treasure room. keep accidentally killing these guys. And basically, by working together, we managed to figure out how to unlock all the stuff in the treasure room. And we were the ones who discovered it. The first people. As far as I know, nobody else had figured it out by that point. So I literally discovered the secret, made a video about it with the express purpose of basically being like, hey, there's this little secret room with some catch-up gear. And because it was, like, well hidden, I wanted to explain to people how to get to it so that they could do it without, much effort. Because it's aimed at new players, aimed at helping people who aren't as experienced with the game. That's, like, the goal of my guides. I don't want to assume that people understand everything. So I want to aim my guides in, like, a way of, like, oh, if you're a brand new player, this will help you. That kind of thing. And yet, people will complain about literally everything. And before somebody says to me, oh, just, ignore the haters, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I've heard that a million times. I get it. I'm not, like, sitting here and, malding about this shit. It's just more of a mild complaint of, like, ugh. You literally can't do anything on YouTube without being called a clickbaiter. I can make, like, a 4-minute video that is, like, information dense. I packed, a lot of information in 4 minutes. Other people spent, however long, 30 minutes covering the exact same topic. And, you could look at that in one hand and be like, oh, well, you just, you clickbaited it. You didn't do a thorough job. But I really don't see what else I could have covered. It's like, it covers everything. The only thing that people pointed out that my video doesn't cover, that some others did, is how to get every single one of the, what's it called? Whatever. It's like the thing that you use to unlock the sand piles, the little keys. I always think of them as keys, so I forget the name. But the things you get from treasures that unlock the sand piles. Like, a few comments said, oh, this video is clickbait because it just says that this exists and it doesn't tell you to get the sand piles, when literally, in my video, I state, I've already gone over every single treasure, and in that video, I mention every single one of those, like, treasures that gives the special item. So I say, if you're interested in learning how to get these keys, I have a separate video that covers all that stuff in detail. And, obviously some people already know how to get that, and they just want to figure out, how do I use this stuff? How do I get these items? Bing, bang, boom. Right? So I like to keep my videos more focused. I don't want to repeat information, basically meander on for 30 minutes. I want to tell you all the relevant info. This is all you need to know. Boom. Now, if you want to learn more, check out this other video. And I guess in some ways people can view that as clickbait because it's like, you're trying to get people to watch multiple videos, which, like, in a sense, does, I guess, help my channel. But realistically, I think it helps other people too. Like, it's something that I've kind of been on the fence about, right? But every single time, like, I ask one of my friends, like, what is your opinion? I'll ask them, would you rather watch one 30-minute video that goes into, like, all these different points? Would you rather watch, like, 5 5-minute videos or something and have each one cover a specific topic? And every single time, my friends will say, I'd rather watch the, multiple 5-minute videos, because that way, if one of them covers a subject that I already know about, I can just not watch that video, and I could maybe only watch 3 or 4 of the videos. And, because they're... yeah, been talking too much. Because they're, like, more well-labeled, I can say, oh, well, this video contains information I don't know about, so I should watch this one. But, oh, no, this video I already know, so I, probably don't need to watch that one. That kind of thing. So, every single time, I guess, that I've, like, debated, it's like, should I make one long video or a bunch of short videos? I've gotten the answer of, oh, I find multiple short videos to be more helpful. So that's what I try to err on, the side of caution there. But then, like I said, you can't win. You still get people saying, it's clickbait. Whatever, though. I've once again beaten this horse dead. But whatchamacallit? Entire reason I got onto this, I don't remember how I got from Wrath Classic to here, but I know somehow I got from Wrath Classic to here. Yeah, so I have a lot of plans for Wrath Classic stuff. I guess, yeah, like I said, I'm not going to make, like, the same old clickbaity videos about, like, I was looking into Wrath Classic, like, fresh servers today, just because I probably will play on one of those, just because I think it's interesting, more as, like, for the purposes of the video that I'm going to make, which you'll probably understand when I explain it in, like, 2 minutes. Playing on a fresh server, I think, makes more sense and would be more fun for me, at least, and probably for the viewer. So I think I'll probably do that. So I was looking for information on fresh servers, and like every single YouTube video looked like the most generic thing ever. It's like new information on fresh servers, and then in all caps, and then question mark, exclamation mark, and it's like Blizzard confirms fresh servers for WoW Classic. And then it's like a 2-minute video that contains absolutely no information. And eventually I just had to look up like a blue post, like a post on Reddit that actually had information about it and like answered the question I was looking for. And it's so annoying. It's like, I don't understand why people make videos on blue posts that somehow give less information than the blue post itself. You know, at that point, why even make the video outside of, well, obviously clickbait, which is just annoying. And then it's like, who are the dumbasses that give these people clicks? You know, if you, at the moment I see that a YouTuber is doing shit like this, where it's like they're obviously contributing nothing outside of literally just reading off blue posts and basically regurgitating information that I already know and don't fucking need them to tell me, I just do not watch that YouTuber's video ever again. I'm just like, all right, well, this is a person I will never watch. Like, I can't really think off the top of my head of an example for World of Warcraft, but I know there's I still won't name them, but there's this one particular YouTuber that comes to mind for Total War Warhammer 3, which I've said before, I love Total War Warhammer in general, a great franchise, Total War just in general, absolutely love it. And I really like watching a lot of YouTube videos for Total War Warhammer 3. It's like, a lot of people have asked me before, you know, who's my favorite World of Warcraft YouTuber? And the reality is, I don't really watch a lot of World of Warcraft YouTube content, which is, I mean, to some people weird because I am a World of Warcraft YouTuber. So it's like, you know, if that's what you do, wouldn't you want to watch more of it? But like, it's kind of the reason why I don't. It's like, I already know so much about this game at this point. It's like, there's not a lot that I need to watch. I would say at this point, and I've said this before, the World of Warcraft YouTuber that I watch the most is probably Liquid Max, right? Like, I watch him more than pretty much anyone else, usually because I find his stuff to be the most informative. And I used to watch Preach a lot, and then Preach quit WoW. I still watch Preach every now and then, but at this point, you know, the stuff that he makes just really isn't stuff that I guess, interested in, you know, for better or for worse, right? Where's Transcendence? Crap. I forgot to put that on my bars. Transcendence, transfer. Right, because I should place this for when the eventual knockback happens. But yeah, all that to say, right, I do watch a lot of Total War Warhammer YouTube content. And there is one YouTuber in particular who, surprisingly, has a sizable audience base. He's not like the biggest content creator. Like I've said before, Legend of Total War is by far my favorite, you know, Total War YouTuber. I love the stuff that he does. I think it's really enjoyable to watch, and I enjoy his personality, right? But there's one like other, I wouldn't say like large Total War content creator, but like semi-large, like probably upper threshold of it, where literally 90% of his videos are just clickbait garbage, where it's just literally him reading like a forum post from the developers and then basically talking over it for an hour and basically just saying like, oh, well, you know, the developers posted this, so I'm gonna, you know, just rant about my speculations on what this might mean, completely unfounded. And the main reason I stopped watching him on top of that is the fact that he would, in a scripted video, no less, just blatantly not edit anything. So he would give himself a script and he'd be editing and he'd be like, so we can see in this forum post that they, and just, even though he would stumble over his words, he just wouldn't edit it out. And the reality is, if you're watching a video like this, like mine, where I'm just casually leveling, you know, I'm not trying to do any editing whatsoever. I'm going to stumble over my words. I'm going to have to repeat stuff. That happens. You kind of accept that when you're watching a video like this, which is much more freeform. I'm leveling, etc. That's the entire point of it. But if I stumble over my words while recording one of my dungeon guides, you bet your ass I'm going to go back and I'm going to re-record that, and I'm going to make sure that I say it right. Because in a scripted, well-edited guide, you shouldn't be fucking tripping over your words randomly and, you know, just not fixing it at all. It's just, it bugs me. I don't know. Minor thing, but you know, that annoyed the shit out of me. That on top of the clickbait. It's just basically, to me, the not editing part on top of the clickbait thumbnails made me just realize that this guy was just pure laziness in terms of, you know, a YouTube content creator. Like, he was not actually putting any effort into his videos, whereas like some other people who did similar content were actually putting a lot of effort and research into, like, you know, I guess one thing I like watching, because I don't know a lot about, you know, Warhammer, or I didn't previously know a lot about Warhammer lore, I really enjoyed watching like DLC speculation videos on, you know, oh, what's the next like faction that they're going to add to the game, that kind of thing. And I don't know anything about the lore, so I have fucking no idea what's coming next. But then, you know, it's interesting to watch those videos where it collects hints from the developer and then goes over like existing lore and how that might work in terms of like, you know, an addition, and how it makes sense to have this faction next. And, you know, watching some, you know, content creators put in a ton of research and go through like all this like existing lore and basically do like an interesting comparison on like, oh, you know, in the past, like, you know, Creative Assembly, the company has tried to like add lords that are like historically, you know, enemies, and we can see here that like across the lore these two characters have been enemies, and, you know, based on hints, you know, that the high elves are going to be the next race, you know, one of the most famous high elves is this person, you know, he talks about the lore behind that one famous high elf and stuff. That's just like the kind of stuff that I find interesting. And there's other content creators that clearly put in way more effort than this one guy who just regurgitates forum posts and like repeats, like reads off like lore wikis and stuff. I don't know. It's just, at this point, I'm definitely ranting far off topic. But all of this is to say that I've seen this happen a lot in WoW Classic as well. A lot of people just regurgitating the same exact thing because it's like, you know, oh, WoW Classic is a hot topic right now. Let me just make the same millionth video on the fact that fresh servers are a thing that exist. And, you know, clickbait the fact that like, oh, Asmongold did what? And then question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark. And it's just, I don't know. That's the thing that I always worry about, that if I start making like classic YouTube content, which I have a little bit in the past, but not like seriously, it's usually only like, I would do a live stream of me leveling through classic, which I don't think I'll live stream still. Probably not for WoW, for the Wrath Classic launch. I might upload my leveling in a video, maybe. But although I do plan to return to live streaming on that note, because I know that someone's going to ask, I think at this point, I'll safely say that I will return to live streaming at the start, or in the Dragonflight, I almost said Dragonlands, as always. In the Dragonflight beta, when I'm doing my leveling runs, that is when I will return to streaming. So at some point during the Dragonflight beta, I'll do, you know, another stream, which at that point might even be like the first stream in almost a year, which is kind of funny. I've taken a long break from streaming. But hopefully when I really get back into it, there were a lot of changes I wanted to make for streaming. I wasn't happy with how I had things set up. I've been slowly working on getting like those changes done over like, you know, the last year, right? But I think my main thing is I really wanted to have better quality videos because I wasn't happy with my video quality. That was the main thing. I felt like because I was spending time on streams, my video quality wasn't improving. And I wanted to get my videos to a point where I was like actually happy with them. You know, and I wasn't like constantly running into issues where I'm like, I'm not happy with this video, but I just don't have enough time to fix it, which was like a serious issue that I kept facing. So at this point, I'm happy enough with my video quality that I think I would be fine returning to streaming, but we'll see. Something I'll probably discuss more in the future. But yeah, no, classic content. The main thing that I think I'll do, and this is probably something I'll do next week. A lot of people have said, and probably justifiably so, that leveling during the zombie plague event is really, really awful and extremely hard to do and just absolutely cancer. So, what I want to try to do is level during the zombie plague event. Because I just think it would be fun, right? Like, I like leveling, you know, in retail and in, whatchamacallit, Classic. I say I like leveling. I like optimizing leveling. I like when there's a challenge to leveling. To me, like, leveling my alts, just, like, the grind aspect, like, to me, this isn't fun, I guess. Because I've done this a million times. But that's why I enjoyed speedrunning it, because it was taking something that I've done a million times and trying to optimize it, you know, to make it efficient. So I think optimizing the process of, like, Wrath leveling while there's a zombie plague event going on and having to, like, factor in, you know, that a lot of zones are just inaccessible because of, like, you know, a bunch of zombies overwhelming it, I think that's really cool. I think that's, like, a really neat concept. And I'd imagine it's going to be an absolute disaster because I don't think I'll actually be able to escape, like, zombies on... And this goes back to why I said I think playing on the fresh server is important for this, because I feel like a lot of the people who are playing on a fresh server are more invested in, you know, coming back for Wrath and experiencing all that stuff. So whereas a lot of the other servers may be well populated, I think you're going to have a lot more engagement in stuff like the zombie plague event on one of the fresh servers than you would have on one of the regular ones, because every single person there is really invested in the idea of, like, a blank slate and, you know, really engaging in Wrath fully and kind of ditching behind, like, the BC experience and all the characters they leveled. This is probably more just, like, feely crafting stuff than anything. I'm kind of talking out of my ass here, but I guess I like the idea of fresh servers. I think they're cool, and I figure if I'm going to do that challenge anywhere, it would probably work the best on a fresh server. So that's where I'm going to do it. I'll be leveling my characters up there, and then I'll see how far I can get on, like, a brand new character. Probably, I don't know when I'll start, because I do have raid. I think it starts on Tuesday next week, right? And I have raid, you know, Tuesday and Wednesday night. So I won't be able to do it during then, but I guess outside of that, I'll try to spend as much time leveling my character so I can really experience, like, all the different phases of the zombie plague and see how that affects the leveling experience. Like, maybe early on, when you're only running into a zombie every now and then, it's pretty easy. And then maybe later on in the week, when just the world is fucking destroyed by zombies, leveling becomes impossible. So, could be neat to see how that experience unfolds. And I guess one of the reasons why I want to mention that now is I'm curious about, if you're interested in watching that, let me know in the comments what format you would like to see for that video, because I'm thinking of either I do, like, a highly edited version of that. So think of it like I record all the footage for that and condense it down into, you know, 1 hour or something of maybe potential highlights from that entire experience. Or I just upload, it wouldn't be a long thing, so maybe like 3 episodes of, you know, just the entire journey. Maybe light editing, I would say. Probably if there's, like, excess dead time, I would cut it out. But maybe 3 multi-hour long segments, kind of like this, basically, of me walking through, you know, or me going through the entire experience and kind of showcasing the whole thing. I'm just curious what more people would want to see. If you just want to see the highlights, let me know. If you would want to actually watch the full, you know, recording of that entire experience of trying to level with the zombie plague going on, let me know if that's something people are actually interested in. I'm willing to upload all those videos. It's just, I don't know. I'm curious. I doubt many people will comment. Usually if I ask for something, I get like 1 comment at most. But it's just nice on the off chance. Helps me make decisions better. But I do think that would be fun. And that's the main thing that I plan on doing at the immediate moments, at least. But I also, one thing I really want to make, and I'm probably going to have to get started on that relatively soon, because I don't want to make the same mistake that I did with Shadowlands Season 4, is I want to make dungeon guides for Wrath Classic. So, obviously, there's no reason to make dungeon guides for, like, original vanilla WoW, and I wasn't really interested enough in TBC to bother, like, making guides for it. But I've been really enjoying making dungeon guides as of late for like retail and stuff. And I feel like TBC dungeons, while not hard per se, have enough mechanics that you probably need to be aware of. Like, I've seen, leveling in dungeons in the past. A lot of people wiped certain bosses because they don't understand how it works. And I feel like that's going to be a thing for a lot of people going into TBC who have never, like, actually experienced it. So, primarily, I want to make just generalized dungeon guides that work for everybody, but from a point of minimalizing I guess, tanksiety, for lack of a better descriptor. But I know a lot of tanks in particular, DPS you can kind of just go in, send it, whatever. But a lot of tanks are really worried about dungeon tanking in specifically like Classic and whatnot, because they're worried that, oh, if I don't know the mechanics, then people are going to judge me. And then, I'm going to end up being the reason that the group doesn't finish the dungeon because I didn't actually understand how this mechanic works. And I've actually been frustrated by that myself in TBC, because there were a few mechanics that I just had no idea existed. And, I mean, we didn't fail the dungeon because of it, but we definitely wiped because I had no idea that, like, this mob did X. And there's no dungeon journal in TBC, or, well, Classic in general. There won't be in Wrath. So there's no way that I can look up to see, oh, what does every boss do? That kind of thing. So I feel like making dungeon guides for Wrath, I don't know if it's actually going to perform well, but it's something I kind of want to try. Just because, well, partially just because I think it's fun. I like making dungeon guides. It's some of the most fun I've had, even if it hasn't performed amazingly well. Just because, it's enjoyable to me. But also, I've been trying to, like, do a bit more... I'm trying to do better editing, I guess. Over my last few guides. I've been trying to get better and better at it, and I feel like doing Wrath dungeon guides will give me another chance to get, like, additional practice. And by doing that, the more practice I get now from stuff like Wrath dungeon guides, the more practice I have for Dragonflight, which, realistically speaking, I think whatever guides I make in Dragonflight are going to have to be good. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself, right? I'm making sure that I actually... What? I didn't get teleported. Huh. Oh, do I... Oh yeah, it's after that quest, right? Okay. But yeah, no. I personally, I think that I wouldn't say that Dragonflight is like a make or break moment for my channel, but I definitely think that, my channel started, right at the beginning of Shadowlands, and I think especially stuff like leveling guides, new expansion guides, obviously new expansions are a big point for, any content creator, but especially, I feel like when Shadowlands first came out, my channel first started, I had really no idea what I was doing. I was brand new to YouTube. I had limited experience making videos. And, I mean, my channel's been growing pretty steadily since then. But, nowhere near the explosive growth I had at the start of Shadowlands. And although I still think I was good at, like, doing testing and stuff like that, that hasn't really changed. I've always been doing testing and stuff on the PTR, just for fun, like with the leveling stuff, which is how I made those guides. I mean, hell, even the Covenant spreadsheet, right? That was before I made videos, and I was still able to do that. So there's a lot of instances where, I'm able to, like, figure out stuff like that, or I have been in the past. And I think still the quality of the information in my guides, even back at the start of my channel, I personally feel was perfectly fine. But the presentation definitely was not perfect, and I feel like I've spent a lot of time over the past, like, 2 years at this point, almost. Actually, has it been? I think it has been 2 years at this point. My channel's 2 years old, yeah. So that's pretty neat. But yeah, I've spent, like... Oh, no, not 2 years yet, because I started in October. So, yeah, still almost 2 years, like a year and, like, 10 months or something is how old my channel is. But yeah, over that time, I spent a shit ton of effort getting better at video editing, getting better at just overall, like, video quality, audio quality, blah, blah, blah. And I'd like to think that I made, like, decent steps in that regard, like some of my recent guides, like, the Treasure Room one, as much as I bitch about people complaining about clickbait, it has performed well. So a lot of that stuff, I feel like my improvement has shown there. But that's why I feel, the quality of the guides that I make for Dragonflight are really going to be important. So I kind of want to try my hand at making Wrath Classic guides because, even if it doesn't do well, that's practice that can go into making the Dragonflight guides even better, is the way I see it. So that's something I plan on doing. But I have no idea how many I'll do. I don't know if I'll make a guide for every single Wrath Classic dungeon. Maybe only a few, maybe only the important ones. At the moment, I'm planning to do all of them, but who knows? Maybe when I start getting into it, it ends up looking like way too much work, and I just say, fuck it, I'll stick to, only a handful of dungeons. We shall see. I haven't fully decided yet. Also, at this point, I think I'm almost done. One thing I was gonna talk about, I'm gonna finish pretty quickly. I guess this ended up being pretty fast. Especially, because I wasted like 5 minutes early on, and this still ended up being really fast. So I think, safe to say that out of all the zones we've seen so far, I think Hillsbrad probably ended up being the fastest. But, I mean, they're all comparable, right? We got very similar times for all of them. You could maybe argue that Gorgron was slightly slower, but also that required way more travel time to actually get there, whereas in a regular speedrunning route, you kind of incorporate that normally. That said, in this instance, obviously, we're taking into account the fact that you are starting off in the middle, so stuff like that is important. So yeah, I would say that maybe it isn't worth just going straight to Gorgron. Maybe you do just go to Hillsbrad as Horde. Either way. The last thing, so I basically pre-planned, I mentioned I do this sometimes, I pre-planned topics that I want to talk about before every video ends. So, I had one final topic that I didn't get around to talking about. I'll stop the timer here. And I'm not going to fully get into it just because it would take me too long to discuss it, and at this point, after recording, I am tired, and I am hungry, and I need to stop. But I do want to quickly mention it because I think it's worth mentioning. So, Hearthstone. I've reinstalled Hearthstone on my phone. I stumbled over my words there. I have reinstalled Hearthstone on my phone. And, overall, still at this point, a pretty dogshit game. I know some people in my guild have been complaining. Apparently, they like paywall Battlegrounds. I personally hate Battlegrounds, so I don't care. But I tried playing, Constructed again in Standard, and I did not have a fun time. But I have found enjoyment in the single-player adventures from Rise of Shadows. So I know it's old at this point, right? But I absolutely love a lot of those adventures, and playing through it, I've had a lot of fun. Obviously, Rise of Shadows outside of the first chapter costs money, but I think it's been a ton of fun. I've really enjoyed it. And I've sunk so much time into that. It's crazy how much time I've wasted playing that, single-player expansion. But the reason why I think it's relevant is, with the story for Dragonflight, I'm not big on WoW story, but I did read a Wowhead post saying that Rafam was data mined, and with the whole idea that Galakrond might be like a major end boss, if the actual storyline for Rise of Shadows and then Descent of Dragons is played out in Dragonflight, I think that would be super cool. So I think it's really fun content. I'm throwing it out there for anybody that, is interested in WoW story. It's entirely possible that Hearthstone expansion may be canon in Dragonflight. Who knows? Somewhat speculation, but I think it's fun, and I love the characters, and I would be psyched if they actually really brought them over into WoW. So definitely recommending that. Hearthstone overall, kind of a shit game. The single player adventures, banger. Super fun, would highly recommend. There's also, I guess the other thing I was going to discuss, Hearthstone, not Mercenaries, but the Book of Mercenaries, which is another completely free, not paid at all, single player experience. I played through the entire thing of that. There's like a shit ton of them. And those characters are also in Dragonflight. Some of them, like Cariel Rome is one of the characters, and apparently she's in Dragonflight. I have no idea how she's going to play into the story, or if she's just there as like a reference. But I actually quite enjoyed that entire experience. And towards the end, some of the stuff was like very clearly not playtested at all. Where it's like some Blizzard intern at Hearthstone just said, yeah, let me like throw together a whatever deck and just design a whatever boss and have them fight this, and just did zero playtesting to see if it actually functioned. But as a story thing, it was pretty neat. I actually thought it wasn't the best story ever, but it was like a somewhat interesting story with like somewhat likable characters, to the point where now, after playing through that, I'm like, yeah, I would actually be totally okay with these characters being added to WoW. They're like interesting and, you know, likable and stuff. And it's pretty cool. So overall, what I'm trying to say with this is I didn't have time to talk about it, but I would highly recommend, even if you aren't interested in Hearthstone in general, check out the single player adventures. They're actually very fun, and a lot of them are completely free, so you don't have to pay any money for it whatsoever. So yeah, would recommend that. But you know, we've gotten to the end of the video, and we've tested all 3 leveling zones, and I think they're all pretty nifty. Really, I just wanted a chance to talk and do a leveling run, because I haven't gotten to do one of those in a while. And although I will be doing the zombie plague thing soon, I don't really know how much time I'll have for storytelling in that. It also depends on the format that I do the videos in. So I figured this was a good way to basically get through a lot of the points that I wanted to talk about, while also doing like a fun little side thing that some people might enjoy. Because this is genuinely a question that I get asked a lot of, you know, which zone is the fastest if you're trying to catch up a Legion character. But now that we've gotten that all out of the way, you know, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video, which will probably be the Wrath Classic Zombie Plague thing that I've already mentioned. I really don't have anything else planned until then. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you then. Peace.